just one big joke. It's a fucked up world. Here we are in. I ain't going nowhere.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Reason Reborn, episode 40. Jeez, this is 8 or 9. This is 49. Almost to a full calendar year worth of podcasts. I'm your host, Black Vegas, Micheal, whatever you want to call me. Pissed off motherfucker is what you're gonna call me by the end of this, because I am not happy with what's going on in the world right now. And I'm here with my co-host, Cardiacsumo. How are you, sir?
I'm the positive side of things today, I guess.
Yeah, you're the sunshine. I'm the fucking thunder, and I'm not a thunderstorm. I'm the tropical storm that's growing into a hurricane. Did you actually check that video I posted? I'm curious.
Which video?
The Kanye West thing.
I watched some a little while ago.
Yeah.
I don't know if I saw the full thing, but
it wasn't pleasant. It was 15 minutes, so I'm sure you didn't want to sit through that. You probably were scared.
But to be clear, the reason I'm all sunshiny is because I'm in a good mood. Because I'm on vacation right now, so I'm not doing shit for like a week or two.
Oh shit! Didn't know that. Congratulations.
I finally talked myself into taking a little break there. So that's what I've been doing. And as part of that vacation, I got me some VR awesomeness. So I got I had the HTC Vive set. I shouldn't say new because there's a pro version now, and that's probably the new one. So I've been having fun with that the last few days. So I'm all sunshiny and cheery. Certainly not because of anything that's going on in the world in particular, just what's going on.
Oh, you love the rebranding of NAFTA. Don't lie.
I actually forgot about that. That was, oh my god.
I just got a new deal. I just did the same thing and changed the name. Awesome. Yeah. Fucking brilliant president that we have. God damn it. This planet. But good for you. That's why you've been up all night playing Beat Saber. I was like, this dude has to be at work fucking like dragging because of that. Now it's like, no, he's off.
So I did that.
His vibe. He's like living the life.
I did that one night before work, before my vacation started up. But after that, yeah, I've been free to stay up the last, today and yesterday, I guess. And before it was the weekend, so I was good there. But yeah, I played like 4 or 5 games, all of them interesting.
Nice.
I shouldn't have hesitated like that means they're not good. Most of them were fun. I was just thinking of one. It's like I don't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but you can like jump around and you have guns and like swords and shit. And you can like, it's a really fun setup. But I noticed myself getting that motion sickness. I can only jump off of walls and like hit people with swords for so long. I'll look it up during, but you can get started on some of that fun stuff you want to talk about.
Okay, so you kind of get to choose, I guess. Because I mean, we have of course Donald Trump and his rebranding of NAFTA. We also have his belligerent behavior towards a reporter, in which she told her she doesn't think.
I missed that one. Was this the one asking about the Kavanaugh stuff?
He picked out a reporter in the crowd, and he just basically told her he knows she doesn't think, and he picked her because he knows she's been dying and she's scared, and she was like, "No, I'm not really upset by anything. I don't know what you're talking about. You're talking about I'm dying to ask something, say something." And he was like, "Oh, it's okay. You weren't thinking."
Yeah, I missed it.
He was like, "You never think."
Good old president. Random as fuck. Nobody knows what he's talking about ever.
Of course, the press has been going, they've been like, his press office has been trying to basically say, hey, he didn't say she was thinking. He says she's not thankful.
What?
Yeah. And it's like you clearly see him like, yeah, you don't think. I know you don't really think. Let me send you the clip. It's not a long clip, but let me put it in the chat so you can see.
I mean, it sounds like a Trump thing to do.
Yeah, no, it was really stupid.
I like how you say it's not a long clip, but it still has a commercial. It's like, I feel like if it's a short clip, it's not bother with the commercial.
CNN gotta get paid.
Like, I feel like the commercial can't be longer than the actual product. I'm just saying. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Wow, that dude is rude as fuck. The way he said it was even worse than you described it.
Like she wasn't shocked. She didn't have a mic. How am I gonna talk? And like,
she said something like, you know, she was getting up or whatever. She's like, sorry, I'm not thinking. He's like, he said something like, that's all right. You never think or whatever. It was like really off the cuff and rude for no fucking reason. Does she, did she like run over his puppy or something? Like, what's this problem?
right. It basically came off, you're just a girl. What do you know?
And I was complaining that she's not asking about trades. I was like, yeah. I did miss that, but it was that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and then today he doubled down on his ignorance by saying that young men are in the scariest times of their lives now because of accusations like what's going on with Brett Kavanaugh, because they can be accused of things that they didn't do.
I mean, they could always have been accused of things they didn't do. So
yeah, and it's like, so basically you're saying that no, he couldn't have did this because men have never sexually assaulted women in the past and got away with it. It's not true. It's not true. I mean, the thing about that statement that bothers me the most is that I even know people who've been saying stupid shit like that. And it's like, y'all been sitting here talking about things. It's scary now to be a dude and approach a woman. Like, fucking Superman said that shit. Henry Cavill talking about it's hard for him to approach women now because he doesn't want to get in trouble. I was like, motherfucker, you're Henry Cavill. You're considered one of the most handsomest men in the world. You got jacked the fuck up to play Superman, and now you're even extra attractive to most women. You don't need to be scared of talking to women unless you're going to do some dick shit. All you have to do is like, hi, I'm Henry Cavill. You saw my chest in the Justice League. Would you like to go out with me? And they probably get a yes most of the time. You don't even have to be good at talking to women. Just don't be a fucking dick, even though Henry Cavill is a fucking perverted borderline pedophile because he only dates apparently women who just graduated high school.
Well, okay. Okay.
No, seriously, his last couple of girlfriends have been all like 18, and he's like in his mid to late 30s. It's creep.
Hey, it's legal. I'm just saying, we have talked about people on this show who are doing things a little less legal. You know what I'm saying?
Touche.
I mean, there's ways you could approach that subject, I guess. I have talked before about the idea when more progressive liberal people like myself latch onto an issue, sometimes we take it a bit far. I haven't really seen that happen too much so far, though. So while I could, I guess, in theory, understand that concern, I don't see it really happen in practice that often. At least not with like, I've seen more overreactions in other realms, but like this Me Too kind of thing seems relatively on point compared to a lot of other social movements throughout history. I mean, whenever they bring up one of these friggin' dudes, they really did do something like obviously wrong. You know what I mean? You could get to the I guess if you looked at interactions between men and women on some kind of continuum, and you go from like, you know, harmless flirting to straight on assault along that continuum there, I could imagine things that are a little bit more on the borderline, I guess. But most of the things that they talk about that make the news are not borderline issues. They're like rape or this kind of thing, which I would consider an attack because allegedly he held her down, wouldn't let her escape. She was trying to fight back, blah, blah, blah. I just don't see them taking it to the extreme that I probably would have thought they would have. So to me, this feels like a bit of male overreaction here.
Yeah, like it's funny. I've seen people on my Facebook talk about, well, if you touch the girl's butt while you were 8, you're not gonna get a job. And it's like, what type of like sense does that make? You're really pushing the envelope because you probably did something fucked up, and now you feel betrayed that the law is now not allowing men to be the Neanderthals that they used to be. Like, yeah, I agree with you. Sometimes people do go overboard with certain things and all of that, but you shouldn't, like, hindsight being 2020. Shouldn't there something in your brain that says, yeah, I shouldn't have been that much of a dick towards women? Like, you're offended that you are being called out for being an asshole? Is that your problem? What the fuck?
And again, most of these guys who are getting called out are not just like assholes,
Right.
Like they're doing something pretty in the like clearly wrong. Like it's not usually debatable with most of these kind of things. I can't think of any that were. I think we debated the Aziz Ansari thing a little bit, but like pretty much every other thing, and even then, I still saw some of your points. So it's not like because I even said back then, it's not like I'm arguing this guy was a saint, but most of these issues, it's pretty cut and dry that those dudes did something like pretty fucking wrong. So
yeah,
I think to these women's credit, they haven't really gone to excess too much that I've noticed, at least. Nothing that made major news at the very least.
Well, there was slight major news because I remember seeing an article saying that one of the women during the Bill Cosby case admitted sometime over this week that she did embellish on certain aspects of her story, which my response was, okay, so she did that. What about the other 49?
And I would hope she gets in trouble or something.
Yeah, and she probably will, if she did. But does that absolve Bill Cosby like some people were trying to do on my timeline? Try to say, see, this is...
I think that happened after the last show, the Bill Cosby.
Yeah, I did.
Getting his butt fucked passed. Sorry.
He did. Yeah, he did get convicted, I think, on the same day of the Kavanaugh thing, which I find funny. Like while a Supreme Court nominee is getting grilled for his sexual transgressions, Bill Cosby, one of the more storied, favored black figures in this nation, got sent to jail for 3 to 10 years concurrently.
And he's another case. Like, I shouldn't say assuming. I assume because he's going to prison, they've proven this reasonably to be true, that he drugged and sexed up those women, which is rapey. It's rape. I shouldn't say rapey as though it's like in the realm of rape. It's rape. Even that's not like an arguable issue. Like, yeah, you shouldn't drug women and have sex with them against their will.
He did it. The thing is, I find it funny how people seem to blank out the fact that he signed an affidavit to admit to the crime, but to have it kept out of court if he agreed to pay off someone. He fucking signed an affidavit back in the early 2000s. He admit, like, yes, I was putting stuff in the pudding.
You have to say that.
He admitted to his transgressions. So it's not like he never acknowledged it. And again, I think we talked about it a little last week, but like 50 people, kind of hard to dispute 50 fucking people and trying to make up some type of conspiracy theory that all 50 were paid off to get him in trouble.
it's an interesting thing with a lot of these issues. This Cosby thing and the Kavanaugh issue is this idea of this grand conspiracy. And this is something to say to all these people who really buy into those kind of conspiracy theories. You guys are attributing way too much intelligence and conformity to like tons of people. Like as a rule of thumb, the harder it would be to pull off a conspiracy theory, the less likely it is that it was actually a conspiracy. I mean, you coordinated dozens of women all at the same time to take down Cosby, or this Kavanaugh thing. All this was put together to take down Brett.
Yeah, most conspiracies, when you look over history, it's a handful of people. The larger the groups, the less likely they get away with this conspiracy. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just not going to happen because you're banking on like the Cosby thing. You're banking on 50 women or more, plus all the people who organized this thing. You're banking on the Philadelphia legal system, the prosecutor, the judge back in the day during the affidavit who held it for 14 years and wouldn't let it be allowed, who decides to take a payment all of a sudden after 14 years and just like and then tell another judge it's okay for him to let it go. It's like NBC, like a lot of people like to throw out and say they're part of the reason because they wouldn't let Bill Cosby buy it and stupid shit. It's like you're imparting all of this like meticulously and like wonderfully crafted fucking plan of execution to all these people to target this one man, and they culminated this since the mid 90s when he first tried to buy NBC into damn near 30 years later his like comeuppance. This is what they grand schemed back in the mid 90s when he decided he was going to buy NBC. It's like, okay, yeah, okay, sure.
It's interesting. These are people you supposedly don't like, yet you're attributing so much intelligence and competence to them. It's fascinating. I saw Hillary joking earlier about Kavanaugh's comment that this is all like revenge for Hillary, and she just kind of laughed it off. And I'm sure some people thought that was obnoxious, but it is kind of weird the amount of credit they give her and her dynasty
and her
for pulling off like this.
Clearly have manipulated the whole entire political structure with perfection because they get blamed with so much stuff. It's funny because I saw somebody the other day getting mad at we'll get to the Kanye stuff later, but they were getting mad at Jay-Z and Beyonce when someone said that clearly Jay-Z and Beyonce knew better to separate themselves, and because they must have known that this guy was going off his rocket. And they were like, well, Jay-Z and Beyonce supported the Clintons, and because they supported the Clintons, they supported black people being in prison and blah, blah. It's like, no, but okay. It's just like the Clintons always come up in everything. It's like they are somehow just, it's kind of funny. They went from being the darling of Black America to now all of a sudden being the villains of Black America. It's so weird. And I think you froze, sir. So you might want to disconnect and reconnect because you're not moving on my end. Just strange.
I feel pretty connected.
And now you move.
Am I good again?
Yeah, you move now. That was weird.
That's fucking weird. I was just saying that we say they are, the enemies of Black America now. I think we really mean Hillary. It's like Bill was liked and Hillary isn't liked, and now he's being more tainted by her. Especially now that partisanship is like higher and higher. We really like the idea of shitting on Bill as a liberal.
Yeah.
Because now every time we get one of these guys like Kavanaugh or whatever, people's on the right's first response is, what about Bill? As though he raped that woman.
Yeah, but at the same time, they also are now more unforgiving for his transgressions, considering that at the time, I remember how people were just rallying to him and was just like, yo, you can't do this to him. You just setting him up. So what? He cheated on his wife. Look at her. Again, I remember people in my family going, look at her. She's so frigid and she doesn't look like she makes him happy. Of course he's going to cheat. Can't blame him for that. And this is like, now all of a sudden he's just this heathenistic cad. All of a sudden it's like, so you didn't have a problem with him getting his dick sucked by another woman in the Oval Office like over 20 years ago, but now for some reason, because they've started this vilify Hillary thing, his cheating is an issue. Okay, sure. Kind of froze again. I wonder if your internet or is it mine? Because it's weird because I don't have anything open but the stream on my end. Yeah, and now it goes again. I don't think your internet likes you, sir.
Yeah, I think it actually is me because it did look like I had a problem a second ago.
Oh. Not good. It's too much VR. Get it mad.
Could very well be. Close to this stuff up, see if that somehow helps the situation over here. Yeah. Thing. Dedicate all power. Hang out.
That's funny. Do you have Comcast?
Spectrum.
Oh, okay. Let's say because if it's Comcast, I can understand because Comcast sucks.
I'm not gonna say anything mean to my service provider because they are being that nice to me. So I'm gonna.
I guess. Well, we'll make it through. Maybe it's because of me talking about what's his name? Trump and Bill Cosby. I'm betraying the race, I guess.
You are anti-black racist. Just saying.
I'm anti-stupid black people, which again we'll get to a little later because I feel like I should save that till last because that's going to last a long time on my end. Guarantee you. Fucking idiot. God damn it.
Bill's going down. Kavanaugh's like, and again, of course, I saw that same argument about white women trying to take down this black icon, which is just a really gross argument. It's like saying you can get away with rape because you're a black icon.
Yeah. Now, it's kind of funny because usually the narrative within the black community is why is he going after white women? Why is he with the sisters? But I guess that's not an issue. I'm surprised the rallying cry is, well, white women should be drugged by black men for some of their ignorant asses. I feel like that's what some people want to say. They're stupid. They're stupid people. Look, people. I don't care how much you love the Cosby Show, Fat Albert, whatever. Even the Cosby Mystery Show, which I don't know why people watch that, but whatever. That don't make him absent of like being a fucked up person, you know? And I don't know why we rally around fucked up people when they do fucked up things. Try not to acknowledge it. It's so stupid.
I love those shows too, but like I feel like they're not mutually exclusive. I can say that I like the Cosby Show and that I don't like Bill raping people. Those can both be true at the same time.
Yeah, and you could do that, but just don't be fucking naive and think that he has no capacity. Again, I always say this. Anybody can do anything, including yourself. Don't like fucking fall into that trap of thinking no one's not capable of anything, you know.
Well, it's this oversimplification that people have of human nature is that good people do good things and bad people do bad things, and that's it. It's like I feel like if you just examine your own life, you'll know that's not true. I'm sure plenty of people think I'm a good person. They're wrong. I'm fucking horrific, and I do.
Oh no, you're a monster.
Yeah,
you're society. You one of society's biggest one.
But I mean, I can think of things that I've done. I mean, I never raped a person. Like, I'm not Bill Cosby bad, but you know, I can think of things that I've done in the past that were not very nice, and can retrospectively try to improve from there. I was gonna say, hopefully, Bill's time in prison helps him improve. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that because he's old as hell. So
yeah, he's in his early 80s. So most people think
they should have got him sooner. No. Although I guess that age thing leads into one of the weird talking points around this Kavanaugh issue is that, you know, you can't be getting him for all this stuff that he did, like, what is it now, 30 years ago or something?
Yeah.
You can't be getting him for this stuff he did in high school and blah, blah, blah. And that would be true if we weren't talking about rape. like if he just drank a lot in high school, I don't think too many people would care. This notion that what you did as a kid is off limits. Like if you murdered somebody when you were 12, I feel like we should talk about that, right? Like it's concerning. We don't just ignore it as childish hijinks. I don't know. Do you feel like there's a moral statute of limitations there?
No. I do believe in if someone becomes a better person, that's good. I don't know if I believe like they should not face the consequences though. It's like, damn, you know, he's so much a better person than he was in the past. That's good. But some things do come back to haunt you in life. It's just, you know, fair or unfair, it's kind of inevitable. For this, though, the funny thing is, it's not like he's facing any legal trouble. He's being placed in a position where his morals come to question because the job that he's going for requires you to have a certain moral statute. He needs to be an impartial, moral, you know, clear-thinking person. And being someone who has done the things that he's done in the past, and that's the thing. I feel like people are so focused on the whole sexual assault things that you forget that this guy has committed perjury on the grand jury, you know, and in front of the Senate and in other areas, and like has a fishy suspect judicial record, which shows that he has biases that may not work as a Supreme Court justice. You know, you can have your own personal opinions, but you have to have some type of unbiased when it comes to your decisions and things like that. And he's shown no aptitude to do that. It's also shown that he's a ridiculous liar, and that he has some personal issues. He's not an appealing candidate. The sex thing, I just think, adds on top of the whole situation. You know, it's like throwing fuel on the fire. But it's something that now the Republicans can't really ignore because people have made a loud outcry about it. And that's I find the funny thing is like all the other stuff that this guy has done did not send up red flags, but this is the one thing that's moved the needle, which is which is good as far as the whole sexual assault conversation goes and the Me Too thing, but horrible that this is an example of what we're willing to put up with in this country.
I feel like this notion, what you said about, you know, the sexual assault thing really being the trigger for a lot of people, I feel like that's just not true on the right. Because it was mostly the right that didn't really give a fuck about anything that happened with him. Democrats have been screaming about this guy since the beginning, but on the right, they didn't really acknowledge that he committed perjury. And they still haven't, as far as I can tell. They don't seem to care about that, and they don't really seem to care that much about the sexual assault issue either. Like, I think they're putting on a brave face to the extent that it looks, you know, they don't want to look to their voters like they don't care about a woman being raped or whatever, but this doesn't really seem to concern them. I mean, if they weren't getting such a heavy backlash, they would still have been trying to vote by now. In fact, they tried to vote, right? It was just that Flake kind of dissented at the last second. Like, they were not moved by this issue at all.
Yeah.
And they're
So,
still not, so.
Going over the whole hearing thing, because that happened a couple of days after. So we had Blasey Ford. She did her testimony. It was very emotional testimony, which moved a lot of people. Then it was followed up by the Republican fiasco with Brett Kavanaugh, who had his time where, holy shit, it was one of the most ridiculous performances I've ever seen in my life. The man got up on the in front of the Senate and screamed like a fucking baby, like he didn't get his cereal for breakfast or something. Like, that man whined the whole fucking time. He yelled at people. He blamed Democrats, talking about there's a conspiracy theories like Hillary Clinton and all that, but you want to fuck with me. And he said he liked beer. He said he liked beer a lot.
This is all because you're angry at Trump and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I mean, he was just screaming. You know, he was asked questions and he was very combative about it, not necessarily answering, just being as combative as possible. It was a weird, surreal thing. And then you had Lindsey Graham, who, that son of a bitch, got up on his soapbox and made this like ridiculous speech about how it's a farce and all that. He also was caught during sessions when he was confronted by some of the same people who confronted Jeff Flake about their sexual assaults. He was like, "I'm sorry, go tell the police." Yeah.
We both on that Lindsey Graham shit, because I saw his complaint about the way this is going. And when he said something like, you know, we wouldn't have done this to one of your guys or whatever. I mean, does the name Merrick Garland not ring a bell? That guy who didn't even get a hearing? Like, I'm so sick of
over a year, that man was shelved. He was a nominee over a year, and they were like, they blatantly said outright, we're gonna wait until we get to after the election.
And to be fair, what Graham was talking about was the supposed character assassination happening, but fine. But this notion that you guys are the pinnacle of professionalism and the Democrats are just these dirty, do anything to win assholes, that is the pot calling the kettle an asshole, isn't it? I mean, come the fuck on.
Yeah, it is. Especially when you, again, look at his behavior, how he responds to things, and things that he says. He's just a jerk. Like you heard today, he said that if he was the president and Kavanaugh got voted down, he would nominate him again.
Wasn't this the guy that was, I don't know, maybe I ought not go here, but wasn't this the guy that was all tears and stuff at McCain's funeral? Talking about how McCain stood for decency.
Before Trump was elected, said that it would be a mistake to elect him. So, yeah.
And this is why it's hard to respect the guy. He's got no moral backbone. He's a jellyfish. He just wiggles around and does what the fuck ever. I mean, how do you deal with a guy like this? It's disgraceful, generally. I hate to say that, especially because it makes me sound like I'm one of these people who just like hate Republicans, or, you know, that I'm feeding into this partisan war or whatever, but it's pathetic. The way he got up there, and to be clear, when he was talking, he was supposed to be questioning them, right? This is part of the hearing. He didn't just, the hearing time that he got was to ask questions of, in this case, Kavanaugh, and he barely asked him anything. He just kind of used the opportunity to talk about what he wanted to talk about, and kind of pander for Kavanaugh's sake. I think he probably squeezed in a question or two in there because he had to, but it was just gross. It was a gross display.
Yeah, he just made it like huge attack. Like,
and he wasn't the only one, but I mean, come on. I'm so sick of them being able to look at us with a straight face after what they did to Garland and talk about this situation. Are you fucking serious?
Yeah, no. And it's just like the things that were being said in that whole thing by Republicans and by Kavanaugh and all that. It's just the crying, the bringing up the calendar. It's like, yo, you're a horrible liar. The fake tears are just bad.
His tears are weirdly placed. I'll say that.
Yeah.
He cries.
And the
at
fact that
things
you're trying to say you're hurting my daughter and all that, you're invoking the kids thing. I'm like, dude, really? I need you to relax, and do something better than this, because this is not. Nah. It was wild. It was a very, very wild and surreal experience. But then you had the Jeff Flake thing where he votes to move this guy on to an official vote, but begs for the investigation, which is a ridiculous thing. You got a week of limited investigations, and it's like, if you don't find anything by the end of the week, it's fuck it, we're voting and we're doing whatever. And it's all being hampered. They can't ask certain people certain things. They're limited to what they can ask or who they can ask. Like, why are we even doing this?
Well, why were we even having Blasey Ford there to talk? They made up their minds, right? Like, again, this is the thing that really bothers them, is that they don't care. No matter what happens, they've decided that they want to confirm this dude because they want, I guess, a conservative, judge, because the Supreme Court is now just one of those other political war fronts. They've made their decision. This is all for show. They want to limit the amount of political damage they're going to take from the people in their camps who actually give a shit, and then be able to move on with their lives.
But it's like, you couldn't pick a better candidate. And it's funny, you hear the stories like Mitch McConnell had told them don't pick him in the beginning. The rumors now that his legal team had already knew about some of the allegations that have been coming out, and that they were preparing responses even before he took his first hearing for this job. Like, it's like, y'all clearly knew this guy was a fucking dick. You could have picked a better person. Why this dick?
Well, we have to remember who is picking him, right? It's not the Senate. It's
a dick.
Trump. So, and the argument people are making now, or they have been making, is that Trump wants him specifically because he had written at some point some opinion that said, a sitting president can't be indicted or something like that.
Yeah, he brought up the question of making basically the president a dictator in some ways and absolving the power for him to be removed. Which is another uncomfortable situation that we're not talking enough about, is that this idea that the president is putting him there in particular because he is facing legal troubles of his own that he might want a little supreme protection from. I feel like we need to get back on that topic. I feel like that's concerning because there's a list of plenty of other conservative judges that he could have picked from, and he is specifically sticking with this dude, which ought to at least throw up some red flags. I'm not saying, throw anybody in prison just yet, but it is weird. Yeah, like, you're going to take somebody who's this incompetent and this fucking, like, alarming into your fold. Like, what was your vetting process? I'm curious to know. You couldn't have done more vetting, except for you heard that statement and went with it. Like you said about the whole absolving the president of certain things. It's like, you could have checked his legal record. You have a team of people. They couldn't do that. Just that.
They could have if they had taken the time to, but I don't think they cared to really do that. They believe that which is what this is really about. They believe he'll overturn Roe versus Wade, or he'll vote to do that at least. So that's all they really care about.
And it's such an asinine opinion.
Which, by the way, it's
very valid because he's an idiot.
it's interesting the extremes they will go to in order to do this. Like, that's how strongly they feel about things like Roe versus Wade. Well, I say interesting. I find it personally gross, but I'm sure other people have a different stance. But I don't know what show it was, but somebody had brought up this dude, and he was commenting on the Kavanaugh situation, and I feel like it might have been like Trevor Noah show because I catch a glimpse of it every once in a while. Somebody brought up this dude and he said, essentially, even if Kavanaugh did do it, it being the sexual assault of Christina Blasey Ford, he'd still vote for him to get rid of abortion, is what he called it. And to me, like he said it just straight up, and it took me aback for a second. I thought, you know what? There you go. Being honest, that's what this is all about. That's how desperately you want to do this. That he noted that it was wrong for somebody to like rape a person, I guess, but he was willing to bite that bullet to get rid of abortion.
Yeah, and it's hard to deny that that's their strategy, because I mean, look at the writing on the wall. They pushed and pushed for this to go through as early as possible, the whole vote and hearing. When the news of like possible transgressions came up, as much as Graham likes to try to frame it like we were being as complicit, or Grassley was trying to like frame it like we're being complicit as possible, they kept saying we're not doing it unless this, we're not doing it like this, we're not doing it at all. It's just like they kept like getting to their own deadlines, and they kept caving because they just don't want to look as bad, but at the same time they don't want to lose this guy, so they're doing things like the limited FBI, that you can only ask certain people certain things. Don't ask too many people. You're limited to these questions and these questions only. Like, you're basically making the FBI not be able to do its job by framing everything the way you want it.
I think that's the scariest part of it too, is just how they are actively against finding out the truth on this. And it's, as people have noted, it's either because they believe that Kavanaugh did do what she is saying, or they just don't care either way. Neither of which are good. So, but yeah, I mean, they didn't want any investigation. They've been fighting this every step of the way, tooth and nail, to get this guy confirmed no matter what. So, all to get rid of abortion, I guess. Which, we can have a talk about abortion, I guess, but the fact that they want this so desperately is so weird to me. I don't see. Sorry.
It's just weird. It's like, what is the fight for? You clearly can see this guy is not qualified for the job. Let him go. I'm sure you can find another conservative who will play ball, but won't be so obviously, conciliatory in public. Like, clearly, Brett Kavanaugh seems just like he's just a patsy who's just going to do whatever the fuck he told by the GOP. Do you want that image? Is that a good look?
Well, first, I don't think it matters how it looks, because once he's on the Supreme Court, that's it, pretty much. What are you going to do about it? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but it's like you got the obvious PE disaster, because sure, he can go in and that's going to fuck up that. But you could lose, like, as greedy as people claim the Republican Party members are, they're clearly not showing any signs of self-preservation or gaining anything new from the game itself, from things itself, because you might lose your jobs right now because you want this dude so bad.
I think they're fine with it. I mean, one of the things about the Republicans is that
they can impeach him, right? That's the funny part.
Kavanaugh?
Yes, you can impeach a Supreme Court judge.
That would not be easy.
No, it's not. But him being the idiot he may do something to cause himself to be impeached.
Well, I was gonna say was you mentioned the possibility of picking another person. How likely is that now that we're heading into the midterms? Because I think part of the reason they're so desperate to do this is because they might be accepting the fact that the midterms are going to really screw them over. So they would need to get this guy in now. And they've been pushing this for so long. So let me ask you like this. If they just kind of let go of this guy right now, would they have enough time to get somebody else up into there to get confirmed before presumably they lose a bunch of seats?
Well, the thing is, they're trying to. I don't know what they're trying. I really don't know what they're trying. Like the strategy is just not. It's a fucking weird strategy.
I mean,
but
I'm
it
trying.
seems to work. I guess because we have the idiocy that's going on where people are backing this whole Trump agenda. Like no matter how like loony it is. I don't know what the fucking like. I guess at this point I'm at a loss because common sense wise in the political landscape, I guess, is that you do not let this guy be the lightning rod to push even further on the side of the left, especially given the climate that we're in, especially with the Me Too thing being more growing and people starting to already bring back, like, even Joe Biden is starting to take the hit over his conduct of the Anita Hill thing. Like, a lot of people are saying if he's thinking about running 2020, he's going to need to find a way to duck and dodge something that was done like in the early 90s. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, nah. It's not like it's a Republican curse that Kavanaugh has to deal with these things. Everybody's dealing with these things that they've done in the past. We've seen actors that we like were beloved one minute. Now their careers are tanking because of shit that happened in their past. Again, Biden, we love Uncle Joe, but a lot of people are like, yo, you remember how you did Anita Hill and stuff like that? He's out here trying to apologize to his best.
Al Franken. Where the fuck is that guy?
Al Franken. That fucking guy was like a star on the rise. He was going to probably be one of the biggest presidential candidates of 2020. You don't hear shit from that motherfucker no more.
They buried him. I hate this idea that this is all a big attack on the right. Bruh.
Yeah, like who's been what's the name of the guy from Michigan? The older black guy who eventually ended up quitting. Like, oh gosh, I forget. But after the allegations came with him, he pretty much shut his fucking mouth up.
I was about to say, I mentioned Aziz Ansari. That dude is like,
yeah, like it's funny when you said that whole thing about us talking about that. The first thing that went through my mind was like, yo, does he fucking even work anymore? I've not seen that dude on anything.
Yeah, can we say that dude was like some right-wing Republican? I mean, that dude was like firmly on the left. He was one of like our beautiful brown faces, and he got ripped to shreds for far less than
the pinnacle of his career, and now it's like, yo, who the fuck is? Nobody does that. It's me Aziz shit anymore.
And again, he got destroyed, you know, culturally for less than what we're talking about Kavanaugh having done.
Yeah.
So this notion that like it's just the left like attacking the right is nonsense. If anything,
Kevin Spacey, that guy's last movie made like less than $1,000 the first week it came out because people were so fucking pissed at him. He's lost this TV show. They're coming out with a new season of what's his name? What's the name of the show that comes on Netflix that he's on?
Something House of Cards?
House of Cards.
Yeah.
They're coming out with a new season of House of Cards. They killed his character off to move forward. So please don't act like this is just some conspiracy by the left to bury anything that's on the right. Because clearly all these more progressive people, fucking Weinstein. I've seen the ignorant comment about like, well, you got Bill Cosby, what about Weinstein? Oh, his time is coming. His trial just haven't happened. That guy was a major donor to the DNC and pushed a lot of money into their pockets. You don't see nobody crying about Weinstein. Protect him.
Not on this side of the fence.
Fuck away from him. Like, yo, he's a fucking monster. He needs to be put down.
All this crying about.
And that's the problem. They're continually crying about, oh, we're getting picked on. No, you're not. It's open season on anybody who does something fucking stupid in their lives or in their past, even. You don't be a fucking dumbass. It's the problem.
I mean, if you wanted to have a wider conversation about if, you know, this kind of life destruction is warranted, we could do that. But you definitely can't make this argument that it's a left-right issue. It's a left-right issue in the sense that the right doesn't seem to care about it, but the left is not selective. If anything, sometimes it feels like they go harder on people. You know what? Yeah, it feels like it's actually more damaging to people on the left because they don't just ignore it when it happens.
You know, the left, when something happens to somebody, be it on their side or like the other, you've torn their hearts apart and you mean nothing to them. You are nothing. You're abandoned. You're the like worst thing in the world.
But I mean, the people on the left who get, these assertions or whatever, they tend to react. Like Aziz, for example, he issued his apology and stuff. Al Franken issued his apology and left. Like, they apologize and show,
and they still get buried.
Some kind of remorse. And they still get fucked over. But you look at Roy Moore, and he's still out there talking shit.
Right? It's like you keep fucking putting your foot in your mouth. So do you expect any of the heat to die down? Because you're sitting out there like, so what? I like young girls. I'm the man. Like, we need to still. This is why we need to only have 10 amendments and shit like that. Like, Lindsey Graham is a perfect example. It's like, this motherfucker is loud as fuck over this, crying about how this is just like attack and all that. It's like, no, we bury our dead. What are you doing? You keep trying to resurrect them.
That's why this crying thing doesn't work for me, because in general it doesn't affect you guys at all, because you've conditioned your base to not care about that, which is why they're never even I mean, we're still probably going to confirm this Kavanaugh dude. Roy Moore still got to run at least, and he almost won his election too. It was still very close.
Remember, we did that podcast that night, and that was a close ass election, which is it's like you got a monster here, and you're still fucking going after like putting him in office. What are we doing?
You cry about character assassination, but it almost doesn't affect you at all because you just brush it off no matter what it is. So why are you so? You should strategically, you should be pushing the left to do it even more, because it only really destroys people on the left. So
like
who's the last person that the left really got? I guess Rosie. Wow. Sorry. What's her name? Roseanne.
Mm-hmm. You were right though, Rosie O'Donnell. Oh, not Rosie O'Donnell. Sorry, that's who you were about to say, weren't it?
I was going to say Roseanne. It was like the last person
Roseanne.
Really kind of got. But
and it wasn't like we got her. She got her fucking self. She fucked up, and she works for Disney, the family brand. Do you really think Disney was going to play that shit? Look what they did to James Gunn over tweets from ages ago. You really think something that came out your mouth recently was going to fly? The fuck out of here.
I don't know. Stop lying about it, guys, because it hurts us more than it hurts you, literally.
Yeah, I feel like the left has lost a lot more, like, than the... Like, if you lose Kavanaugh, what? You just replace him with another person that will be conservative and on your side. Like, gee, my bad. And this is the thing. They're going to cry all the way to the polls. And if this fails, they're going to cry for the next 2 years because they lose the midterm elections and things swing back. Of course, any nominee he puts through is not going to go through. So it's going to be an empty seat until he's replaced by someone else. And they're just going to whine, bitch the whole entire time, when the easiest solution could have been pick a better candidate that no one can fuck with. It's just like Gorsuch. Everybody knew he was there to be another conservative, but there wasn't really anything you could say. So you didn't hear that big battle like it was with Kavanaugh, because actually Gorsuch was as a judge solid, as a person solid. I think they had like one or two things that seemed iffy, but it was like not a big deal thing. It was enough where, like, for you to make it as big as a deal was you poo-pooing over the whole issue. No, Gorsuch walked through because it's like Democrats was like, shit, there's somebody here that we can make a fuss over because of the biggest argument during the Gorsuch thing I remember what you did to Garland. That was it. That was the biggest argument. Otherwise,
an argument,
huh?
That it should have been a sound argument.
Yeah, but it was like, okay, that it is, and it is a sound argument. At the same time, it's like it does nothing to stop this proceeding from going on. And you can't say anything about Gorsuch that makes it wrong that he would be a wrong choice. So they had that candidate where it's like, for all you can say about the imbalance, you can't talk dirty about him and like fight us against it. Now they have someone who's clearly not up to snuff, and you're trying to like push that square peg through a round hole when you don't need to. Just find somebody better.
We'll see how that goes. We got a week.
We got a couple of days. This was recording. We're in day 2 of the investigations, which is speaking of which is showing to be the fiasco it is, because there's several people from Kavanaugh's past who have come out and said that they have been known to have information, but the FBI has completely skipped them in the investigation.
People talking about how he was a drunk and all that stuff.
Did you see this story about him and the former NBA player and how they almost went to jail?
No.
So this former NBA player, Chris Dudley, he went to Yale at the time. He was on the basketball team. And a teammate of his came out with the story on CNN the other day talking about how him and Garland were in a bar fight. The story goes that Garland was drunk and mistaken somebody for the lead singer of a ska group, UB40 back in the day. And the guy was like, no, and he kept pushing the envelope, and then the guy was like, no, fuck no, what are you talking about? So Garland was like, you're an asshole, and proceeds to get in heated argument with the guy, and eventually end up with Kavanaugh. I said Garland, I think. Sorry, Kavanaugh. Ended up like throwing a drink in his face. Like the original story was he threw a bottle at him, but like he was like actually he threw the ice in his drink at the guy, and that set the guy off. And the guy and him started scuffling. Chris Dudley used to hang out with them, and he started fighting the guy, and they broke out into a bar brawl. Fucking Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh started a bar brawl. Police came. They questioned him, but they didn't arrest him. They arrested Dudley because apparently Dudley was the one who did the most damage. And Dudley was then released after the coach came down and talked to the police and all that. No one was convicted, but yeah.
So
that's Kavanaugh.
I had been seeing some talk about bar fights on Twitter earlier today, and
that's what
I had no idea where that was coming from. And now,
there you go, sir.
Now that makes sense all of a sudden. But they were talking about like getting drunk and doing bar fights. I'm like, where's all this random talk about drunken bar fights coming from today? That certainly filled in a blank for me. I take a little issue with the fact that somebody's coach had to come and talk to them, talk to the police, and that somehow worked. I don't know.
Well, it's college, and that happens a lot. Unfortunately, with star athletes in college.
Yeah, I guess that was my issue, is that being a star athlete should not get you different treatment. I would also argue that maybe Mr. Brady Brett shouldn't have gotten different treatment because he wasn't the one doing the most damage. I don't know. It just seems like a lot of nonsense action by the police in that particular case.
And this is because it's like something they want to kind of keep quiet, because it's like, we got a star basketball player, we got a Yale student. We don't want these students to get in trouble because they come from money and things like that. That's how they do.
I take issue with it, but I mean, you hear all these stories going against Kavanaugh's character now, and I think one of the issues is that he seems to mischaracterize himself. Like he keeps giving us this picture of this, Catholic goody two shoes or whatever. Had a drink now and then, whatever. He's more and more people are making him sound like a belligerent drunk.
Yeah, no,
And
because there was a couple of more people talking about they know this guy blacked out all the time and got fucking like wasted and things like that. Like, yo,
if he would have been more honest about it, though, I feel like he would probably be okay because, you know, there's that image of like being in school and drinking alcohol and blah, 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 that sort of classical image of the college student. And I don't think most people would take too much issue with that. It's the fact that he keeps kind of lying about it. Or if not lying outright, at least misleading us about it.
yeah, being like, you know, just very belligerent and like avoiding like discussing the issue properly.
Trying to redirect, like when I don't remember which senator was talking to him, but she asked him if he'd ever been blackout drunk to the point where he couldn't remember something, and he's like, "Have you?" Like,
Yeah, like
what was that?
I asked you, fuck, like that's a child's response, sir.
Some dude asked him. I don't remember what it was about drinking. I don't remember the specific question, but he asked him if he liked to drink a lot or something. He's like, "Do you like to drink? I like a beer. Do you like beer?" Is this weird, uncomfortable as hell? Just redirect whenever he asked the question he didn't like.
Yeah, it was so stupid. Like, dude, what the fuck are you doing?
It was rude as hell too. It was extremely uncomfortable to watch. It was unprofessional.
Normally, like during the first hearing, it was clear that he was an evasive person not trying to answer questions. But then he added the fucking like belligerent behavior to the I'm not going to answer this question. Not only am I not going to answer you and be evasive, I'm going to be a jerk about it. Okay. I feel like he drank before the thing, to be quite honest. Because he just seemed like so fucking agitated and angry for no reason. Yeah, it's just like he chugged a fifth and just like, fuck it, I'm going to tell these guys what.
And to be fair, I do understand that it is a pretty emotional situation. Let's say, you know, just for argument's sake, I mean, we don't know whether this happened or not yet, but let's just say, for argument's sake, that it didn't happen. I could imagine being very pissed off with the media coverage. A lot of it's not necessarily assuming that he did it, but I feel like that's the way the nation's kind of leaning. And if he didn't do it, I could see that being very emotionally upsetting, and he's a human or whatever. But that said, like, it's still not a good look to be a dick to senators in session. Like,
and see, when people make that argument, I tend to say, like, oddly enough, go look at footage of the Clarence Thomas thing. Clarence Thomas, he made his like very, you know, you could tell he was upset when he made the statement about how it's a mockery and this is like a public lynching and all that. But look at how relaxed and calm he was. Like, he was stern with his words, but he wasn't belligerent. He wasn't unprofessional. He wasn't hysterical. You know, he made his statements clear and he, you know, said what he had to say, but he kept his demeanor. And that's the thing. Like, Kavanaugh just went fucking haywire. He lost his cool.
From the regular human emotion standpoint, part of me wants to give that a pass. But as a judge in your professional capacity, I feel like that's alarming that you can't. Again, this, to be fair, I don't think most issues a judge would like preside over include their own personal life or something so I don't know, extreme in their personal life. So I do think it's an extreme circumstance for him personally, but even so, it's not a comforting thing that you want to see in a Supreme Court justice.
No, because it's just like, if break it down from him not just being a prosecutor, he was a lawyer. What lawyer do you know act like that? You know, if you were like you know, attorney and I was a prosecutor like him, and you were to question, like, say, like, well, do you have any evidence? My response is like, what do you? You know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck type of like, shit is that to perform in that type of setting?
Yeah, I feel like that would make more sense because when he was asking the senators about their drinking habits, it was like, that's just totally irrelevant. Like, even if they were blackout drunks every day of the week, it's not really relevant to your case, is it?
It has nothing to do with the question that I asked you.
I
asked, are you?
I shouldn't say case as though, this is a criminal
And
proceeding.
that's the problem. He turned it into that. He made it into like it was a criminal case. And it's like, yo, dude, this is a hearing. They're asking questions and they want you to answer. And it's like, it's one thing for you to believe that they're trying to persecute you, but you don't have to fucking behave that way. Because you make it sound like you're like being committed to a crime that you're guilty of with your reaction, and you're fighting for your life not to get convicted. You're not getting convicted of anything. You're being judged for a job. How many of us can go to an interview and behave like that and expect to get a job? None.
Not me, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
It's like, have you ever been late for work, Mr. Orange? Have you been late for work, sir? I like sleep. Do you like sleep? Come on, dude.
I used to like sleep. I still like sleep.
Right. It's like, yeah, no. It's ridiculous. I find it ridiculous that people's reaction is like thinking that he did a great job of defending himself and it's okay for him to act that way in a professional setting. No. I mean, if that's the case, we all should act a fool when we go to work and not expect any type of pushback or any type of consequences.
I was thinking about those drinking questions a bit, though. It was like, what are they trying to establish with those questions? Like
his behavior.
I mean, but it felt like a weird thing to ask because, like, I understood why they would ask that, but either he says no and lies, or he says yes, and then what does that really?
Well, if he says no, they're going to press the lie. If he says yes, they're going to press the whole blackout thing and his behavior. Like when you're drinking, do you feel like you're a belligerent person? Do you feel like you're able to control yourself, or anything like that? Because it easily rolls into his behavior. Like it'll eventually roll into, do you still consider drinking something that you really, really enjoy? Because I need to know, are you fucking going to be blackout drunk the day before you come to make a decision on a major issue? And you come into the court not in your right mind, and fucking it could have led to that. And I feel like that's why part of his whole, I'm just gonna be a jerk and just as disruptive as possible, because the right person, such as the Kamala Harris, who didn't budge herself, commend her because she's really, really good at being a prosecutor. But that's the thing. He just needed to push them off the line so they couldn't actually get to that point. Cut them off before they could actually get to a summarization that, you may not be fit because you're possibly still an alcoholic who can be compromised by his drinking and the behavior that it causes him to. You know what I mean?
The questions felt a little more trappy to me because it's like, if he says yes and admits to back then being, drinking a lot and not being able to remember stuff, then to me, the follow-up question is going to be, then could you have raped somebody in one of these periods that you don't remember? And it's kind of a trapping question because if you don't remember, then you're going to have to say, yes, it's possible you could have done anything while you blacked out.
Yeah, which is a part of this, which is the other line that they could have went with, which valid point, because you have all these people around you who come out in public Not just the people who they said they were victims, but friends saying like, yo, this dude was a fucking monster when he was drunk. So yeah, you want to walk him into that corner so he could like admit that, yo, I keep saying I didn't do these things, but I can't not admit that there was a possibility that I did these things because I was known to get so fucked up. People thought that I was like just done mentally. Like I was just like incoherent. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. It is and I'm certainly not saying they should not have asked those questions, but it's kind of hard to combat. Like if you, I don't know, if there are times in your life that you don't remember, then it seems possible for anybody to fill in anything in that blank.
Well, but I think it's kind of more valid because it's not like I don't remember what the fuck I did last Thursday type thing because I just don't remember. His not remembering is because I was a fucking raving lunatic with alcohol. I did too much and I put myself in a position where I would do stupid, vile things. You know what I mean? There is a definite difference between against just not being able to remember and being drunk and not remembering, because generally people like that tend to do things that are very regrettable.
Sure, if you're drinking like that, it seems to me likely that you're going to do something stupid. Assuming you don't just like black out and become completely incapable, but I don't know. It is at least worth considering why. Like his instinct to try to avoid going down that path to me wasn't insane. I think he did it the wrong way, but it was understandable in the sense that, like, yeah. So let's just say he just admitted, like, yeah, I used to drink a lot and I passed out, and there's like a couple times where I don't remember what happened the night before. It seems conceivable that anybody could come along and say, well, you stole my wallet that day, or you hit my dog. Like, I'm not saying that to dismiss Blasey Ford or anything, because I tend to believe her, but just generally speaking, it creates this weird kind of opening where you can say you did this and you can't say you didn't because you don't remember.
Yeah, which again, to his discredit, his defense of it was stupid. You just could have said, like, you know, yeah, when I was a kid, I did foolish things. I did the drinking thing, but I never once blacked out. That's just not me. You know, yeah, I love to drink, but I was like any normal person at that time. I just overdid it in that area, but I had people around me who kept me from doing those type of things, and it just wasn't in my nature to do that, you know.
Yeah, if he
could have gave a better answer like that, yeah.
If he could have just expanded and it's given, like, even just the way I described it, because I feel like that's what he was trying to point out, but he was such a belligerent dick about it. It was like, well, you're not pointing out like an intellectual point. You're just being an asshole, because now you're just kind of like flipping questions back and attacking in response to an attack. So I'm pointing out what I think is the logical concern that I kind of have with those questions, but that's not what he was doing. And that concerns me. But I just want to point out that somewhere in all that madness, I do think there was a grain of something to think about. I don't think he addressed it, but it is there.
Look, he's a dumbass. Which again should point out, like, yo, he's not fit to be on, because he's not able to discern things like that. Like, there are ways to answer certain things.
And just plainly, he's not truthful. He's clearly misleading all the time. He refuses to answer questions. Like, who was it that asked him about whether he wanted the FBI to investigate?
I forget who, but
we remember the question, right? He said, you know, would you support the FBI investigating? And at one point, he just refused to even talk for a second. Like, he just stopped talking for a moment until the guy pressed him, and he just kept saying over and over again, I wanted this hearing. I supported this hearing, blah, blah, blah. Completely avoiding the do you want the FBI to investigate question. He just kept saying, I wanted a hearing last week or whenever, immediately. I wanted a hearing. As though he doesn't speak English and didn't understand the words FBI investigation.
Yeah.
Which I would like.
Until like a little bit later, I guess. Like clearly he learned English after the thing happened. Yeah.
Actually, he said, I wanted the hearing. He also said, I'm willing to do whatever the committee wants. Like he said pretty much everything short of just saying, yes, I want the FBI to look into it. Which they're going to look into it anyway. So it seems like you could have come out of this looking so much better if you would have just stopped being an asshole and just said yes. You know what I mean? Like, because they're doing it. So what is the point ultimately?
Yeah. Another point is like, though, is like with all the questions and all the attempts to trap him into stuff. The thing is, you agreeing to investigations early and stuff. If that was really what you wanted to do, you would have did, not because you felt like it was the right thing to do or anything like that, but because you don't have anything to hide. Like you feel like you're solid. If they really felt like this dude was that solid, he would have been advised to just like go. I'm sure you're gonna prove like more that she's wrong than you can me.
So I guess if you put it like this hypothetical, you could say that he didn't, do what she said, but he did drink a lot. Maybe he's concerned that the FBI is going to be able to show that he was a total drunk. And in his mind, he might be thinking, well, I definitely didn't try to rape her, but I was drunk a lot back then. And you're going to find all these people coming out of the woodworks to support it. So maybe I don't want that. But even still, that doesn't feel like the right answer. Because that doesn't really get you out of this problem. Like, you should just let the FBI do it because they're going to do it anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, no.
It's a weird position, but I feel like he just didn't handle it correctly at any level.
No. And I don't see how anybody who's for him can try to say that he did well. Like, no. I would be like, yo, you're an idiot. You fucking idiot. That's just me. We'll see, of course, how they finesse this into a nomination at the end of the week. They are concerned, though, that there are a couple of swing votes that they might lose within the full entire Senate. Because remember, as it stands now, Republicans only have a 51-49 majority. So all it takes is just one of them to abandon ranks. And then they'll have a tie. Mitch can do something. But if two don't, which a lot of people are thinking there may be two out there who aren't even considering voting for this guy, who knows?
It's really unfortunate that we have to talk about this stuff in those terms. Like, I know we have political parties in this country, but the fact that we just accept that they're on completely different sides all the time, and you need one to defect, like they're always going to vote mostly with each other, is not great. I don't think it's where you want to be.
Yeah. No, but that's the state of the political system right now, I guess. It's just sad. All right.
But we have good news. We have a new trade deal, brand spanking new, on the books. It's fantastic. It's amazing. You want to talk about it? Are you excited?
No, because he's an idiot. He's a fucking idiot.
Are you not happy
Basically,
that these other countries aren't going to be like screwing us anymore? And we have this new. We took a knife and stabbed it right into NAFTA's ugly forehead, and drug it down and killed it. And now we have, what is it called? The U.S. Mexico Canada trade deal, whatever it is.
yeah, NAFTA.
No, that's not what it's called. Not that. You know, it has an awesome new thing because it's a new thing. All right. look up this name here. Sexy new name that I can't remember. Is it United States Mexico Canada Agreement? That can't be it. I think that's it. All right. We got a new trade deal. Black is the happiest camper on earth. Why do I feel like that's not really the name? I feel like it's just something Trump might have said out loud one day.
No, it's dumb. Because I'm looking at an article right now in the New York Times. They're saying, do people really like that name?
I couldn't even remember it because I can't remember in which order the countries come. So I feel like it should be called the Canada, United States, Mexico deal. Just like geographically from north to south. That would make it kind of easy.
You know, it's like there's a couple of tweaks, I think. I think he may have gotten a percentage point better, but it's like.
So, for those who have no idea what we're talking about, Trump has for a very long time hated NAFTA, which is the trade agreement we have, or we're going to have, I guess. I don't know at what state it was in. He hates NAFTA because he hates the idea that we have agreements with other countries. I don't know what his problem is. Can you explain his problem? I don't know why he hated it so bad.
Probably because he didn't make enough money. I feel like that's it. Like he or his friends didn't make enough money.
He hated these trade deals and potential trade deals we have with other countries. He's always saying these other countries are trying to screw us. That's why he's always arguing with Trudeau over in Canada and has weird relationships with Mexican presidents. And he's been saying for a while he wants to get rid of NAFTA. NAFTA sucks. Screw NAFTA. And I guess he feels like he did it now because after a lot of arguing and bad rhetoric, they changed the name of it and gave some minor tweaks. And now he's out here talking about how he created a new deal, the United States, Canada, Mexico agreement. I feel like I said it wrong again. I generally can't remember what it's called.
I'm looking at the name because it's dumb. It's the USMCA, which is the worst name.
The US.
The United States, Mexico, Canada Agreement.
I got it right. I know I'm stumbling here a bit on this, and that's really because there's not much different there. It is the same deal. I don't remember who said it. Somebody had said something when they announced it that like President Trump wanted a rebrand, so they changed the name or whatever.
Yeah, because he made a comment on the rebrand. Looking at this article, his comment on the rebrand was USMCA, like YMCA or United States Marine Corps with an A at the end. I like the way it sounded.
He didn't say that. Stop.
Yes.
He did not say that.
Yes.
It sounds beautiful, I guess. I guess it sounds better than NAFTA. Actually, I like NAFTA better because you can just say NAFTA as if it's a word.
Yeah.
You can't really say like Uskumka or whatever it would be.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's much harder phonetically, so it's a stupid rebranding. But you know, jokes aside, how do you feel like this plays with Trump's base? Do they really buy this idea that it's a brand new, much better deal, that Trump is this deal-making genius who threw NAFTA in the garbage and gave us something totally brand spanking new? Even though all he really did was like change the name and a couple little things that maybe a dairy farmer here or there might like.
Oh. They'll love it now because, you know, it'll sound like something patriot. It's kind of got a patriotic appeal to it in its stupidity.
So you feel like his little repaint strategy is going to work for his base?
Up until it starts affecting them, like usual.
Is it going to affect them that badly? I mean, it's pretty much the same thing NAFTA would have been, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so, well, first of all, I'm not even sure if I feel like we're just gonna call it NAFTA, except when we're around him, then they'll call it that. Because it's the same thing. Like, why bother with this stupid ass rename? You know what? I hate to say this because I'm an American and I want to stand by America, but Mexico and Canada should stand up, have a fucking spine, and make it be called NAFTA. Like, don't give him stupid little things like this. It's so stupid. I hope at least they got something in return for the name change, because this is a dumb. I don't know. When I saw this announcement, I thought to myself, all of this horrific talk he's been doing, all of this threatening to blow up the economic world, essentially, and this is all he got out of it, was pretty much a name change.
Yeah.
Some little differences for like dairy farmers and whoever. Like, it was so much energy and time and anger and screaming that he put into this, and he got nothing in the end. In the end, we're right back where we should have been anyway, except now we have like really negative feelings between the US and Canada. I don't know how Mexico feels right now. I'm sure the feelings are negative there too, if only because of the wall thing. So what was the point of it all, Black, if we were just going to have NAFTA renamed in the end?
He needs PR.
I genuinely laughed when they said they were doing the deal, because I was like, really? After all this? You're doing the same fucking deal? After all this? Which tells me one thing, by the way, is that he doesn't really... I don't know how to put this. Either he doesn't really have this ideology that he's talking about where he hates these kind of trade agreements because he's claiming to enter into the same fucking agreement that he had such a problem with, like, over the last year. He's doing it anyway. So either he doesn't really have an ideological problem with it, or he does, but he wants the political victory anyway, so he'll sign it. Like, I shouldn't say he, like, Congress has to agree on it, but I just don't understand the point of him doing this. Maybe that's my question. Can you explain to me why he would do this?
Oh, you want an answer for real?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Like, oh, I thought he was being, like, rhetorical. No. Other than, again, he just needs to look good. He needs people to acknowledge that he's smart. He's Fredo.
But
Godfather.
It was so let's say that it didn't work, and Canada and Mexico were like, all right, fuck them. They're out. And it didn't work at all for us. And we didn't get this new deal. Like, it just feels like it was an extreme risk to be like knifing the global economic structure for no real benefit. I just cannot wrap my head around this strategy. And you could say, to your point, that he'll look better in front of his base or whatever, but the reason I asked that question earlier is because I have to doubt that even they are going to fall for this. And like, some of them,
why not? They don't know what the fuck NAFTA is. Most people who voted for him have no fucking idea what half of this stuff that he's doing is about. They just know that he says it's bad, and so they're going to follow behind it. When it couldn't be much better than they think. They don't. He can basically come out and say that herringbone chains are horrible. We need to stop making herringbone chains, even though his base don't realize that he wants to get rid of gold, a certain type of gold chains, which has valuable. But it's the name herringbone that makes it disgusting, because you think when he says herringbone, he's saying something horrible. That's how their minds work.
But they're going to see that this new name includes the name of those other countries. Like, they have to recognize that it's pretty much
just a North American Free Trade Agreement.
Right. So I would think that this name should make it even more obvious what it is. And I would like to hope that if they really did have a problem with being in that kind of agreement, that they'll still have that problem because it's actually named after the countries in the agreement. It even has the word agreement in it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find that shimmer of hope, and you're not giving it to me at all. It's just...
I'm sorry, I can't. Not with this.
And again, I would encourage everybody to call it NAFTA. Can we all just do that?
It's funny because in the article that I was looking at, a lot of people, a lot of experts are saying it's going to be hard for people not to just call it NAFTA 2.0.
Well, I feel like calling it NAFTA 2.0 is extremely generous.
It's like Matt Hardy, rebrand.
But he repackaged himself a bit. Like, can we call it NAFTA like 1.2 or something like that? Like, I don't. As a software engineer, I can't condone.
Woken NAFTA.
Yeah. Yeah, I say we should just all call it NAFTA forever. Fuck this. Like, no, we're calling it NAFTA. Sorry, I refuse to use that other name anymore. It's NAFTA.
You gotta say Askfm.
Nope. Even when I see it on TV, I'm gonna call it NAFTA. And screw Mexico and Canada for allowing him to change the name. They should have been like, we're calling it NAFTA, or we'll go to war.
Probably like, you know what? We're gonna get more out of this than we probably did before. So, sure, let's make him feel good about himself.
I'm already thinking back to when they had that phone call between Trump and like Mexico's president or whatever, and he was still calling it NAFTA. I hope that continues. That's all I'm saying. Oh my God. Anyway, we got past the wonderful news.
Oh, we got more wonderful news coming through. Trust me. So, after the asinine performances of Brett Kavanaugh and things, we got Saturday Night Live, which featured a great opening. Did you watch the opening, right?
Of the show, like overall?
Yeah, like the Matt Damon, Brett Kavanaugh shit.
Oh, no, I forgot about that. Because then all the Kanye stuff started up.
I remember you mentioned hilarious. Yeah, no, Matt Damon was hilarious. They poke fun at everybody. Like I said, including the Cory Booker face, which Cory Booker just be making that fucking face and sitting there. And he was like, I'm not gonna say any significant questions during this whole thing. I'm just gonna sit here and make this face. It's like, yeah, that's pretty much what Cory Booker did that whole thing. And they were making fun of Alyssa Milano because she's everywhere now. And she was out there protesting. And they just had like a billboard of Alyssa Milano pop up behind everybody. Like, God damn, she's everywhere.
Oh, she is everywhere.
One of the Republicans challenged Brett Kavanaugh whether or not he did American or he did domestic or foreign beer. That would be a sin if he did foreign. I'm like, American beer. I said American beer. Like,
USA.
Right. Yeah. It was pretty good. It was really good. But Kanye West was the guest musician, and he came out and did a performance with what's his name? Little Pump.
You got me.
I think it's Lil Pump. One of the like tattooed face weirdos of today.
A lot of people.
Yeah. But they did a video previously where they were in some like weird suits, and they did so on SNL too. Kanye was Perrier water, and the other guy was milk or something. I don't know. It was a weird thing. I didn't watch it, but I saw the picture of it because you got them dressed as bottles of liquid with an older black lady in a maid suit holding bottles similar to them. It's like, what the fuck is this shit here? like, I'm so glad I don't watch him perform because I would have been fucking pissed. Anyway, so after the show is done, off air, Kanye gets on the mic and gives a MAGA rant about how we need to embrace this president because this president's going to bring the best changes and all of that. And like, we need to stop fighting over this because he's a good man and we need to all be about love and all that. The crowd and the whole cast, that they were just standing there shocked. Well, no, they said the cast was standing there like shocked. The crowd was shocked for a while. I think they said eventually they started booing him, telling him to go to fucking home or some shit. But it was just a surreal scene. He backed that up by going on several interviews with his MAGA hat and talking about different things. By the way, you know he was going to come out with an album on Saturday?
Was he?
He announced that he was dropping the album after Saturday Night Live started, and he never did. So his excuse was, I was supposed to do it, but it didn't happen. But I didn't finish it.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's smart. Announce a release date for an unfinished project. Good on you. Then he doubled down by going off on the 13th Amendment, saying that, it's a part of building a better nation and making it great. We need to have the 13th Amendment abolished. Now, for those who don't know what the 13th Amendment is, it is the amendment that abolished slavery. Now, I did a fucking 15-minute rant, so I'm going to try to control my anger and ignorance. It's going to be hard because I don't have any alcohol to, keep me in check. So I'm going to fucking try to be as civil as possible. I feel like right now I can hear the anger extremely rising in my voice. But I'm going to just let you give your opinion right now and try to control the visceral. This is starting to flow through my. I feel like it's like venom, like that shit's gonna come out, and I'm trying to keep it out.
I don't know what I could do to alleviate that issue, but Kanye. What can you say about Kanye?
Okay, so let's just go over the 13th Amendment, just to give a little understanding of the 13th Amendment. Now, the 13th Amendment, I'm going to pull up here and I'm going to read it. It's sad because I know this. I want to call it something that I don't want to say because I don't want to use that word, but I feel like I feel like I'm going to use that word. But it's a certain word that, in this case, is applicable to its original definition. And that is being an ignorant person. Forgive me, y'all, but it's nigga logic that they're going off of. So, here's the 13th Amendment. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States, or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Now, here comes the quote-unquote nigga logic thing, is that they feel like the 13th Amendment was established to replace slavery with the penal system. And therefore, by doing so, they're legally allowed to make us slaves again by arresting us and convicting us and putting us in prison.
Okay. I mean,
that's the logic behind this. And that's why he's gotten support from other rappers, which including T.I., who's another person who's like just ridiculous. Like, some people really don't need to talk politics at all. But that's the gist of it.
I saw a bit of his clarification or whatever of that comment. It's like, I still don't really understand. And you're splitting it a bit now, but I still don't fully grasp this argument that reading the 13th Amendment, I guess the point he's making is that slavery is okay in the case of imprisonment, because you can make prisoners do work or whatever. So I don't know what abolishing the 13th Amendment is supposed to accomplish.
Because it's reestablished the right to bond people into slavery outright by abolishing it. And for those who actually read, you understand that the penal system throughout history of the world has generally been used as sort of a slave labor thing. You can go back to the establishment of this country, because I actually read. That's one thing. I actually fucking read. I don't know why y'all listen to people who don't fucking read a goddamn thing and have the ability to fucking discern intellectually. It's like they're stupid. They're idiots. He can't. Well, I've questioned his rap anyway, because I've always said that he's a mediocre rapper who's a great producer. That's always been my stance on him musically anyway. But you can't tell me that this dude who says all the stupid shit that he says picks up a fucking book and actually has a true developed opinion in his head. He's a moron. Yet you people are sitting here following these fucking morons who say shit like this, and who always say stuff like, you need to keep the Second Amendment because that's the only way we can have guns to like combat white people from killing us all and shit like that. Even though the Second Amendment clearly states that the government has the right to elicit the public to put down quote unquote of rebellions. They feel like you're being rebellious, they will still shoot your black ass down, and it would be legal for anybody outside of the law to do so. So shut the fuck up and listen to, like, actually pay attention to what's going on. Since this country has been developed, there have been penal colonies where they've taken people from England and through Maryland, where I live, used to be somewhat of a penal colony. They used to send the Irish and Scottish prisoners and send them over here. And what they would do is they would make them work the farms. They would teach them a trade to do something beneficial, like agriculture or whatever they needed to do. The state where I'm from, Georgia, the initial intent was to be a debtors colony, where they take people who were poor and didn't have the money to pay off their debts. Instead of just throwing them in jail in England, send them over there, have them work the land, because in the South there was so much land that you can like produce a lot of things like tobacco, stuff like that, which help profit the kingdom. It's always been a part of the prison system to send you in there to like have you work. Now, what's happened with the prison system is that it has evolved to a thing where if the powers that be can wrongfully incarcerate people, it happens all the time. And it's not like it's new. It's not like it's a new thing, but there is in this country, since minorities tend to get looked down upon by, whites, that you're going to get a lot of people of color put in the prison system for things that you probably shouldn't, or that they didn't do because they have the power to do so. Take away that bit of the 13th Amendment where it just says that there's going to be no slavery. They're still going to do that because they've done it through history. That's what the prison system, that's what the judiciary system for. You're thinking that by getting rid of this, you're going to get rid of the judiciary system and judiciary practices that have been established long over like centuries. And if somebody wants to systemically fuck with you, they still got to systemically fuck with you. Getting rid of this is not going to do. That was part of what my whole rant was in that 40 years. Like, why are you being so obtuse? Why are you being so ignorant? Why are you being so stupid? Into thinking that you get rid of this and it's all hunky-dory, that you're put on a level playing field, or that nothing wrong would happen. You're saying stupid stuff to get people who don't know any better riled up and basically walking them down a path of ignorance. And I hate that fucking shit. That's why I hate that man. I wish he would just go somewhere and fall off a cliff, something, please, because you're following people like this and it's wrong. You should never listen to people who talk like he don't.
But
and I'm sorry because I let the venom out. Shit.
Let's put aside this idea that everything would be fine if we just got rid of that. Even just the most basic form of the argument. You could say that you can make the argument that it's not good to make people in prison do shit, like work or whatever. You could make that argument, I guess. But I still don't understand what getting rid of the 13th Amendment would do.
Because they feel like that'll make it illegal for them to wrongly persecute and prosecute black people, or to put a lot of black men in prisons for things. And I
thought the argument he was making was that if you got rid of it because of that little part at the end there, they wouldn't be able to make slaves or
the general consensus is that part weaponizes the judicial system against African Americans.
Okay.
Still don't fly, do it.
No. Yeah, I don't know. It's still a very loose kind of argument. It still wouldn't do anything for you. Again, I guess the way I've been interpreting that was because it makes that exception for prisoners that somebody might say, well, we shouldn't make prisoners do work as if they're slaves, work that they don't want to do, compulsory work. So if you got rid of the 13th Amendment, which gives that exception, then you wouldn't be able to force them to do work, but you'd have a much bigger problem on your hands. The problem being that slavery would suddenly be legal again. So it would be, first of all, I'm not even convinced that getting rid of that amendment would prevent you from having forced labor in prisons. But let's say that it did do that. You're letting a much larger cat out of the bag if you do that. Then,
yeah. And I've heard some people try to say, "Oh, well, just amend it." It's like it's not going to change anything. Again, basically, my whole thing is if I have the power to do something, to weaponize something, then I'm going to do it, regardless of what it says on the books. They'll put it somewhere else. Because again, that's just the way it's going to be. Like, if you're convicted of a crime, whether wrongfully or not, you're going to go to jail. That's not going to change that law or that rule. It's not going to suddenly make white people say, oh, well, shit, how are we going to figure out a way to put black people in jail? You know what I mean?
I also,
if that's the whole crux of the matter, is that you feel like this country, it's a part of the systemic mistreatment of minorities. I'm sorry, but that's a weird argument because, again, if I want to do something wrong with you and I have the power to do that, I'm going to do it.
Well, I also don't really jive with this. Again, it goes to the conspiracy theory thing. The idea that there's this mass, conscious, intentional desire to imprison black people doesn't make sense. And that's really pushing the idea of systemic racism much further. And I see people do it all the time. The idea of systemic racism ought to be, I don't even really like that term, but it just ought to be that there are, given the way a system is designed, it will tend to harm a certain group of people more than others. And you could describe some systems in America that way, but that doesn't inherently mean that there is a conscious effort on the part of people in the system to do things to those groups. The reason systemic racism, again, I don't like that term, is so dangerous is because it doesn't really require that anybody have that conscious desire. It's just kind of a natural consequence of the way that the system is already set up.
So, yeah, and now I can debate and argue that there probably are some ways that you can see that, or at least some, I would say, actions. I think for me with systemic racism, it's more about not necessarily the whole structure, the way things are structured. I mean, there have been laws and there have been things like a football player made a good point about how there have been ways where the law have done things like the New Deal revoked African Americans' rights to things like GI Bills and applying for certain social services when the New Deal was established and things like that. Like, yeah, that's a good example. That's a good example of the structure intentionally blocking you out, because it can happen. And I'm not saying that it would never happen, but I just feel like this 13th Amendment thing is just like, that's not a good enough example for me. That's not a battlefield for me. I can go with the New Deal stuff because that definitely, was clearly stated, to where Black people cut out the loop. But this argument is dumb, and you're forgetting the major point of the law, which is to abolish slavery. That's the thing.
That's what I was gonna say. I've at this moment I've been ignoring that argument because no matter which direction I look at it, it doesn't make sense. It's not going to give you. First of all, I barely understand what he wants, but I can't imagine that abolishing this would give him what he wants. One, and two, even if it had some kind of positive effect or the effect that he thinks he wants, it's still going to re-legalize slavery. So I can't think of any positive gain from abolishing that amendment that would outweigh the idea that slavery is legal again.
Yeah, no, it reestablishes the right to subjugate a human being and turn them back into property.
Which, by the way, I'm genuinely curious what the UN would do if we abolished that amendment, because the UN does not look kindly on human rights issues. And if all of a sudden we just, even if we didn't actively do it, if we just suddenly said slavery is okay again, I don't feel like the UN is going to be okay with that. I don't know. I'm not saying that they're going to fight us over it.
How strongly you feel.
But they could.
Yeah.
It seems like the kind of thing they ought to fight us over if we actually did that.
Yeah, no.
I know some people hate me saying something like that because they're like, well, America should decide what it does within its borders. Yeah. There's lines. There are clear lines.
That's the thing. I feel like people don't recognize levels anymore. There's levels. Again, do I think that the prison system has like problems when it comes to minorities, and that like the judicial system has? Hell yeah, I do. But
sure, it's deeply flawed.
There are clearer lines and more obvious like avenues of arguments to make. And again, I have a hard time believing that it's more of it's designed to trap you type of thing in a lot of areas. Yeah, there are some ways that they do, like the 3 strikes you're out thing. That's pretty obvious, but I also can argue the fact that, hey, you probably should not try to get 3 strikes as well for that to trap you. Or like the whole, like the obvious, like grams of crack versus grams of cocaine. Yeah, that made no sense. And that seemed to be more pushed towards street pushers and getting people off that, rather than going after the people who sell the product, who actually who the actual crack is derived from. Like, yeah, I see arguments there, like clear logical arguments. I don't see it with this. This has no logic whatsoever.
Nope. Reintroducing the right to have slaves doesn't seem like a solution to anything possible.
No.
So, and the intentionality thing, I just made a comment on that because I feel like I see this a lot, mostly from my fellow Black American people. This idea, like, there are flaws in the systems of America that tend to hurt Black people, but people always look at that and make it seem like every single one of them is intentional. Like, so for example, gerrymandering, where say politicians on the right will try to mess with district borders or whatever, so that certain people, usually often black people, for example, can't vote or have a much harder time voting. And not just gerrymandering, like other things they'll do, like shutting down voting places. That is intentional. They're doing that on purpose to keep you from voting.
Right.
But not like every little thing. Like not everything in America that disproportionately affects black people is an intentional thing that affects black people. Some of it is just kind of carryover from more racist times that we haven't really fixed or found a way to fix.
Certain laws and things like property. It goes back to what we said like a while ago about how like certain things need to change. Like I've said, the Constitution needs to be rewritten, to be up to date and current.
So I do think there are things around that will hurt minority people still, but some of them I don't like to feed in too much of this idea that there's like this underground society of white dudes who are constantly trying to put black people back into their base and put the shackles on them all over again. I think there's problems that have been long standing. I think some people don't care enough to try to fix those problems. I think some of those problems are just kind of complicated. I don't know. I don't. It's the same thing with like this Kavanaugh thing. Like I don't want to feed too much into conspiracies thinking. I think you can talk about the problems facing black people without going to these extremes of this society of powerful white dudes trying to put black people back into slavery all the time. And to what extent? Like I'm curious, like how much money do prison workers make for whoever? Like how much is their work worth? Do you know?
It could be worth a lot because you got to think. I don't know if it's still true, but like I remember at one point they said that like our license plates were produced in prisons. I don't know if that's true or still true or not. So if I'm the bureaucracy that is the DMV, I'm not paying them to do that labor. Therefore, when I make you spend $150 to get new tags, it's pretty much all profit for me. You know what I mean?
Sure, but
and it goes back into the system, money. There are probably some things that, like, I don't know. Like, I'm sorry, having been someone who's not studied prison and never been to prison, I can't say to the prison work system. Like say much to the prison work system. So
I mean, because I'm sure like the for-profit prisons and stuff make money off of having prisoners there. I'm just curious, like how much their work. Because there's plenty of rich people.
Yeah, I mean that contract for private prisons. Build more prisons, you get more money.
Right.
So put more people in jail, you need new prisons. There you go. There's your money. Like that I understand because if I'm somebody who builds prisons, what I need you to do is to arrest more people. So, but at the same time, the arguments like for stuff like that get hurt when you have arguments that Kanye are making come out. That's the problem. Like anything that is more logically based on kind of gets washed out because you can present this like fucking clown and his rantings. It was like, is this really what y'all really think? And like, this is what, this is your argument. It's like, no, that's not our argument. That's his. And
I think
it just fucks up things.
Extremely dangerous. For me, when I look at him talk and I look at things like this, there's two problems. One is that I can barely even wrap my head around what kind of problem he's trying to point out to us. Like he just says this like weird stuff and just kind of throws it into the air. And me trying to be as charitable as possible, I try to actually figure out what the fuck he's saying as hard as I can. Most of the time I'm still like, I don't know what the fuck he's getting on about. Like he seems passionate about it, I guess, but I don't even know what problem he's talking about. And secondarily, I get into this space where like, all right, I can't figure out exactly what he's talking about, but I can take a few guesses. And none of those guesses ever work because the types of solutions he wants to give never address any of those problems. And they create much bigger new problems. So it's like,
yeah,
it's weird. He seems to see himself as like such a genius.
Yeah, because
Maybe
they
he's just too
spitball
smart for me.
these
I don't know.
weird, like these things that it's like they rap, and that's why I called it what I called it, because it's like, okay, yeah, I get what you're getting at. There's a problem with the judicial system and the way that minorities, in particular blacks, have been treated by it in this country. But you're going about it wrong because you want to reestablish slavery in order to get rid of the current like issues in.
But I feel like he barely even made that point. Like I feel like maybe the rest of us are trying to make sense of the shit he said out loud.
That's fair point.
Because
fair
the way you're
point.
describing it, and I feel like it's kind of like when we listened to Trump, at least earlier on in his presidency, some of us at least would try to make sense of the random shit he was saying instead of just kind of accepting that it was random nonsense. I feel like with Trump, a lot of us are just more accepting that he's full of crap now. Kanye doesn't talk too often, so he still gets away with it a little bit, but like, because I feel like we're listening to him and he's saying things that just don't really make sense. And so we try so hard to make sense of it that we're kind of putting more rational arguments in his mouth than the ones that he actually gave us to work with.
Well, but I think part of it is because I've heard this argument before. It's not the first time I've heard this argument, and that's why I get irritated, because I guess for me it's nothing new. And then when I saw other people qualifying it, I was like, yeah, that's pretty much what the road we're trying to go down to, because that's the way you pick. It's just like the second, again, bringing back up the Second Amendment argument. Anytime something happens with gun violence in this country and somebody says that we need better gun laws, what's the first thing that comes out of their mouth? Oh, you're just trying to get rid of the Second Amendment. You don't have to say it, but people make that connection regardless. And I feel like the 13th Amendment argument is one of those things where people make that weird, like, out of nowhere connection. To make a point. Yeah.
It's odd. I listened to some other parts of his, I don't know what to call it, rant, I guess.
Why did you listen to him?
Because he wanted to talk about it. I was perfectly content ignoring him until you mentioned
You should have just let me like scream. That's all. Keep yourself ignorant of that shit.
So he had talked about, and I think we've talked about him talking about this before, this idea that everything's so one-sided in this country, you can't think what you want. There's no freedom of thought. He had mentioned people pretty much bullying him for wearing that hat and all that stuff. I'm assuming you saw that portion of his rant. Was there anything you wanted to say in reaction to that? I think he said like 90% of the media is liberal or whatever.
Don't get me on the free thinker bullshit that people have established. Because it's one of the more moronic statements, saying that I'm a free thinker. We're all free thinkers. We all could think what the fuck we want. There's never been established that you can't think what you want. It's never been this, and it has been, but what has been established that you could say what you want, which is what you're doing. So don't feel like you're being stopped from saying what you want. What you're being stopped from is like saying what you want and feel like you're qualified as being right and that no one can have an opinion otherwise. I think the term is called being a snowflake. Someone who cannot abide by the idea that their opinions and their feelings aren't necessarily right, and that they aren't the end all be all when it comes to fucking, like, you know, the ways of the world. You're not that special. None of us are. So chill.
I feel like I've complained about this before. There's this idea that I shouldn't say idea. It is what we generally accept. Everybody has a right to their own opinion, right? But I feel like we take that way too far most of the time, as if to say that every opinion is inherently equal. So when people say, I supported Trump or whatever, because I think Trump is a good candidate for president, he can get the job done, he's competent, he's this and that. Those are largely opinion-based statements, and you can have those opinions, but that doesn't make them good opinions. Not every opinion you could put out there is not literally on the same plane, because there's plenty of arguments in this case for why Trump would be a terrible president, and very few weak ones for why he would be good. There's just, I don't understand this feeling people have that you can just have an opinion and that's it, as though you cannot objectively defend or attack opinions. Opinions are not free from criticism. You can have them, and they can be weak. You can have weak opinions. That is a possibility.
Yeah, no, every opinion can be countered. I don't care what you say, who you. I mean, sure, we can make the argument that they're indiscernible truths, like water's wet, the sky is blue.
Well, those are leaning into facts, though. But
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, it's not the reason they're indiscernible opinions because they're facts. But that's about the closest that you're gonna get to not being able to question something. If it's just a proven constant.
But
what you say about Trump is not a proven constant. What I say about Obama is not a proven constant.
Take it away from politics for a second. Let's say I say Eminem is a better rapper than this current generation, right? The little
that would be a fact, but it's okay.
But
we'll pretend that's an opinion.
Sure. I could give arguments for why that opinion is more valid. I could make the case that opinion is a strong opinion. I could say, lyrically, he has a lot more use of literary tools, metaphors, double entendres, so on and so on. I could say that, I could talk about his flow. If I really wanted to break it down scientifically, I could make many points in favor of that opinion, thus making it a stronger opinion. So I feel like, again, people are too lazy with the way they think about opinions versus facts. They think facts are one thing, and then opinions are completely different, free of any sort of expectation to be strong. I can have any opinion I want. I throw it out there, and nobody else. It's not just that nobody else should say anything about it. It's that you can't even evaluate my opinion because it's an opinion, and that's just not true. I don't know why people have this idea that opinions are free from evaluation. They're not. Just because you can't treat them decisively the way you would a fact does not mean that you cannot evaluate an opinion.
Yeah, I don't really get it either, because it's why there's a couple of things that irritate me about social media culture. One, shut up with that "don't at me" bullshit. Don't come out and say something demonstratively, give your opinion, and go "don't at me," because what that means is you're a bitch. You just want to say what you want to say, but you don't want nobody to question you. You're a bitch. So don't hit that "don't at me" shit, because people have the right to at you and challenge what you said. Don't throw shit out. Don't throw a punch and run. That's what you're doing. Stop being bitches. Same thing with the facts shit. You say an opinion and you throw facts behind it. What the fuck that do?
That is a good example.
Shut the argument down. I'm sorry.
It's a good example of a symptom of that problem, because I've seen it too, where I'll see somebody post something on social media, some sort of opinion, and if somebody disagrees, all of a sudden they're like, "Nobody asked you for your opinion," blah blah blah. which one, it's called a conversation. It has a back and forth. And two, this idea that you can have an opinion and never have it challenged is unhealthy and just not true. And I don't know why people have developed this sort of weird habit. Again, I think it's because when I was growing up, I kept hearing the phrase, everybody has their own opinion, and people use it all the time. And it's not as strong as people seem to think it is. It is true that everybody can have their own opinion, but that's where the statement stops. And people always try to push it much further than it was meant to go.
Yeah, no.
But
it's a weak argument.
I saw a couple Kanye clips of that thing. One of them, some dude happened to have, pull the clip out so that he could talk about it. And it was, based around that issue. And he was kind of echoing Kanye's points, like, well, most of the media is liberal and they only want you to hear one side as if there's no other side and blah, blah, blah. Real quick, I want to take issue with that statement because I think Kanye was the one who said that, like, the media is like 90% liberal or whatever. Fuck off with that. I'm so sick of that fucking argument. If you watch CNN or MSNBC, which is the one, like, the ones Trump likes to attack the most, right?
Right.
You see conservative voices on them all the time. I hear from Trump supporters on both of those networks all the time. They specifically go out of their way to find people on the right. Kellyanne Conway talks on CNN all the time. This notion that they don't let you hear conservative voices is stupid. It's just not true. In fact, a lot of the times when they're talking about an issue, they specifically balance the, what do they call it? When they have like a group of people talking together?
Yeah, the panels.
The panel. They intentionally put a mixture of voices on a lot of them. Not all of them. Some of them do have more just like liberal voices on them, but a lot of them you see a mixture of more liberal and conservative voices, and you see them argue with each other all the time. I don't understand this argument that conservative voices are not heard in mainstream media. That is just, on the news at least, that's just bullshit. That's not true. And if you think that, it's because you don't watch the news.
Yeah. Generally speaking. No, it's not like conservative opinion doesn't get out there. If that was the point, we'd never have a conservative elected because no one would understand what their point was. Well,
I'm sure Fox News would still give them the airtime, but
no, even this, like, okay, you only have one outlet. I mean, if it was just like you only had that one outlet, that's not going to reach that many people. It's going to reach a considerable amount, but not enough to sway. Because let's not act like only conservatives vote for conservatives. And things like that. You know what I mean?
No, sure. It's a fine point. I get tired of this. I feel like it's a myth. I feel like
it's a myth
gets attacked more than it deserves to be. I'm not saying the news is perfect. The way they address certain issues sometimes drives me crazy. But I feel like they get attacked way more than they deserve. This idea that they don't let conservative voices talk, or that they're always like hiding all the conservatives on all the different opinions. That's just nonsense. They invite them on to talk, and the ones that want to come. Again, I've seen Kellyanne Conway talk a lot with like what is that fool's name? He's on CNN.
Cuomo. Cuomo.
Yeah, Cuomo. They talk all the fucking time. I'm very used to seeing that woman's face. I've seen plenty of people who either currently or previously worked for Trump come on and defend Trump on CNN or MSNBC sometimes. I don't understand how you can possibly sit there with a straight face and say that they don't allow on like conservative voices to come and make their points. They do it all the time.
Yeah.
This is stupid. And more generally, because I think what they're sensing is that, like, in the larger culture, maybe some of that stuff they like isn't as acceptable. Like in movies, to be fair, like movies and TVs, you see in TV shows and whatnot, you see more of like the liberal side of things. You see that more progressive New York feeling kind of vibe. I know people aren't gonna like me saying this, but I think that's just the general march of society. Like it is, society progresses. I think that's why you see more of a lean toward progressive stuff in culture overall, is because the culture is generally progressive more than a lot of people would like to admit. Maybe that's me misunderstanding things here, but for example, look at the cultural stance around like homosexuality. It's far better overall now than it was, say, 30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And that's culture wide because the entire society does move toward being more accepting. Not literally all at the same rate, but I feel like we're all moving in the same direction, even though we're not moving at literally the same speed. So I feel like what they're sensing is just a natural fact of society, is that it tends to progress.
Yeah, and it's just you don't like that progression, so you have to find a way to stop it. And this is one way, you know. It's pretty sad because, yeah, like we talked about before, it's not like they didn't talk about Al Franken. Like they don't discuss transgressions by liberal people. Like those people don't get called out and bashed for the behavior.
Hell, they're called out on CNN and MSNBC and all these other liberal rags people hate.
Yeah.
New York Times, all that crap.
And again, it's just very funny because while generally speaking, liberals are coming down on liberals who do dumb shit, it seems like it's the conservatives who are in defense of these liberals for doing their fucked up shit.
Yeah.
You guys put yourself on the wrong fence, the wrong side of the argument's fence. That tends to be the problem that they have.
That is the weird thing. It is part of the reason I brought up this whole, this unfair. I love the way they can play the victim, the way the mass media is unfair to us. First of all, they're very fair to you. Sometimes I would argue too fair, because I feel like they let you slide with some really stupid shit, but whatever. But the stuff that they get on you about, like the mass media gets on you about, is generally bad shit. Like you shouldn't ignore people probably being raped and stuff for political gain. Like that's not okay. Trump shouldn't be talking the way he does to everybody on the planet. Like generally they're calling for you to have some basic human decency, and you're like, but I don't want to be decent. Who are you to tell me not to be an asshole?
Yeah, the arguments are very, very dumb.
Right? And if I'm wrong about it, then I would welcome somebody to tell me, like, give me an example of why it was bad for the media, which again, I hate this characterization of the media, why it was bad for them to call you out. Yo.
By the way, frozen lemonade is great. It is.
And by the way, I'm shitting on the right a little bit right now, but I see the left do this too sometimes, where they're like, just this desire, this conspiracy theory level desire to just attack the entirety of the news media. It's getting fucking old, guys. Come on. We can point out the flaws of mass media or whatever without going crazy.
Apparently we can't, because it always has to be an extreme opinion about something.
And again, it's conspiracy level, it's conspiracy theory level stuff where it's like they're all working together to, I don't know what it is they're trying to do. Not let our guys get elected, which they always do anyway, so I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I don't know. It's odd. I don't understand it.
Like, I have a conspiracy theory. My conspiracy theory is this. they're letting y'all throw out all these dumbass conspiracy theories because they know that while you're sitting there paying attention to all this stupid shit that you're coming up with, they're doing secretly quiet things like passing laws like they did over this weekend to add more tax cuts to billionaires. A move that may cost $3.5 more trillion to the national debt.
You know, if the mainstream media was good at conspiracy theories, Trump wouldn't be here. I'm just saying. They wouldn't have given him so much airtime back during the 2016 election. So if they are part of a conspiracy theory, they're really bad at it. Like, about as bad as you could get bad.
Yeah, my conspiracy is they helped him win the election. You know what? My conspiracy is probably better than anything that you can come up with.
At least it actually had the desired result. Those are my favorite conspiracy theories, the ones that don't even fucking succeed. Fuck.
Yeah, well.
Fuck that.
Conspiracy theories don't have logic built in generally.
Grab this. Yeah.
All right, so I'm tired of talking about Kanye's.
I was about to say, last thing. What do we got to do to get rid of this Kanye guy? Like, I shouldn't say get rid of him because you can be like, they're bullying me, man. Not get rid of in the sense of like kill him or something. Like, get rid of in the sense that we don't have to talk about him every time he says something crazy because he's going to keep saying crazy shit.
Smarten people up because it's funny. One of the reactions I saw to his whole rant thing was people weren't necessarily upset with what he said, but were upset that he didn't keep his promise and put out his album. They were like, I don't care what you say on SNL. Where's the album? And like, that's the thing. Celebrities tend to get away with dumb, goofy shit like this generally because, again, they're so good at a particular thing that people flock to, who are willing to ignore. It's like the R. Kelly thing, you know. Do we not acknowledge that this guy is a child rapist? Oh, no, because he makes great songs like "Step in the Name of Love."
Yeah. I guess I could argue that that's different because he actually did hurt somebody. Whereas, like, I guess I wish we could ignore Kanye saying dumb stuff because if we ignored it, then it wouldn't have any consequence.
Can we say he's not hurting people because he's making these arguments that are hoping to, you know, reaffirm the attitude of people who actually are willing to want to do the type of things that you know, we accuse them of, racist and stuff like that. He reaffirms them. It's like, yeah, see, he gets it.
No, I mean, sure, and it definitely, I hate to say it like this, but it does hurt when black people do it in particular. That's what, because then it's like, see, even a black person thinks this. That's why what's her name is so popular in a sense.
Who, Candace Owens?
Yeah. Having black people be on board with certain things gives it a certain level of credibility that you're just not going to get from a white person. Because with a white person, you just say, well, they're racist, but with a black person, it's harder. I guess my point was just that if we were smarter, then Kanye's words wouldn't matter because they wouldn't really affect anybody. So the difference is like with Trump, we have to pay attention when he says dumb shit because he's the president and he can like act on his dumb ideas. He can and he does act on his dumb ideas, right? But with Kanye, it ought to be easier to ignore because he can't really do anything.
Yeah, because that's why I say y'all need to stop listening to dumb people and empowering them. Because that's the problem. Like that's one of my biggest problems, that we empower people like him to feel like they should continue. Like people like him, Candace Owens, and you know, others, they only are able to do what they do because we actually give them that type of credibility. There's too many people who like don't simply, especially in the case of Kanye, part of it is because again, he's a great musician to those people. And I find it weird how in this country how we feel like the opinions of famous people rank more than professional people. Is like the media thing. We base the media, people who are professional writers who do studying, who do background checks, who research things, they say it, oh, it's just the media being, the media. The media, they're untrustworthy. But we're gonna trust this dude who dropped out of college because he wanted to make music and like seems to have never cared for any type of educational foundation in his life.
Right. I think that's what I'm trying to get at too. It's like, those people who don't care what he says and they just want the music. That ought to be okay because he's not a professional. So and his ideas are stupid. So they ought not be worth paying attention to. I'm not saying like only professionals can be heard. But there's no good reason to listen to him. Like he doesn't have any background. He doesn't have any smart things to say. Sorry to say it like that, but he's kind of an idiot. So
yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. It's like, I guess it's not that he can't have an opinion. He can't say something. Like I was saying, how the football player talked about the different things and stuff like that, research history and all that in his statements. Yeah, you could be a celebrity and you can have a strong opinion, but I need you to be an educated one. I need you to at least bring strong opinions with facts and not just say shit that you think sound good and think that we're all supposed to believe it.
I mean, yeah, I guess we should have listened to him, heard it, and then just like thrown it in the garbage and forgot about it forever because it was stupid. So like when what's his face, one of those musicians thinks the earth is flat. Well, it's not. So let's move on. He's incorrect.
Funny that you mentioned the earth is flat thing because there was a basketball player that went down the same path. And yesterday he did an interview. During the interview, the "so earth is flat" statement from him came up and he apologized for being stupid about it and thinking that.
Good. It's good to admit that you're wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know how you get around in this world thinking things like that, but at least you can improve yourself.
Yeah, some people are willing to fess up when they were stupid. Kanye is not one of them.
Well, Kanye also thinks he's very smart. Which I'm trying not to be a jerk, but you can just tell in the way that he talks that he feels like he's on some weird transcendent level that the rest of us aren't on. And he feels like it's his responsibility to enlighten the rest of us.
Yeah.
And that would be good if he was actually enlightened in some way. Like, I don't know, it's just the ravings of a madman. Like he thinks he's got the answers. And if only the rest of us could see the light.
What drug addicts usually do anyway. Seriously, I found like a lot of people who are on drugs or who do a lot of drugs, they feel like the drug all of a sudden puts them in a mental state beyond us normal mortals and elevates their intelligence and they see the world and everything more clearly because they're high.
You have to try love, Black. You have to try love. That's what I'm hoping you do. You try love. Man. There's some people who that one line.
I'm gonna refrain from saying something.
There's people who that line really resonated with, probably because it just sounds nice.
Yeah, a lot of other drug addicts.
No, I mean just people. So I guess this is the last thing I'll say about this is that it's interesting that you can get away with saying pretty much nothing and having some people think it's profound. Like
Yeah.
I was a bit of a dick, some years ago with this. Like on social media, and I still do it sometimes now, but it was like pretty rampant at the time. People would like take these random quote things and just like, those quotes with like some weird random shit in the background. Like it's an image of like a mountain range or something, and there's always a quote up front.
Mm-hmm.
People would share those all the time, and I would actually read them, and like every time I would be like, that doesn't mean anything at all. Like that was just a random assortment of words that had no meaning, and you shared it, and I would do this every time, thinking I was doing like some sort of public service announcement, and all it really did was make people mad at me. I stopped.
I mean, in the world of meme philosophy, I can understand you wanting to do that because I really hate people who have like established life through memes.
I guess it killed me at the time because I was like, can people still read English? Because
Nope.
I know that sounded pretty, but it didn't really mean anything in practice. Like it was like two sentences of nothing, and you just shared it like it was the most profound thing ever written. Like,
Yeah.
and I guess that'd be like my little public service announcement for people today, especially people who listen to Kanye say "Try Love." Just because you can put words in a grammatically correct sentence does not mean that it has any meaning. You know what I mean? Like I could ask you right now. I heard this example the other day. Like, what is the scent of hope or something? Like, yeah, I could say that question. It doesn't really mean that it warrants an answer because it doesn't mean anything. There's no scent of hope. That's just a badly posed question. What is the color of pride? Like, being able to put words into a sentence does not make the sentence meaningful. That's the only point I'm getting at. Even if it
and I feel like
pretty.
love is one of the words that they always throw in there that's supposed to like.
Yeah, and I got his general point about maybe being nicer, but I feel like what he thinks of as nicest is not pointing out that his ideas are stupid as fuck. But yeah, do it up. Anything else you wanted to discuss?
I think I've worn myself out. I mean, if I discuss anything else about Kanye, it's gonna be as why has this music gotten so whack over the years, and why are y'all acting like this dude's still a good artist? Well, or at least as good as he was. He still makes good beats, but god damn it, like he's become a fucking idiot more of an idiot on a mic.
He really likes his hat, man.
Yeah, no, dude asked him to take it off on the thing, and that upset Candace Owens.
I mean, why bother asking him though? Like, he can wear it if he wants. We all know that he supports Trump anyway, so what's the big fucking deal? It's not a secret. Or do you feel like it needed to be taken off?
No, I thought it was like a weird thing to request to ask him. I think it was like impeding his rights, like Candace Owens was like barking about. Dude probably felt offended and asked him, and he said no. It's like, okay, you weren't impeding his rights. You just asked him a fucking question, dumbass hoe. Hate her. God damn it.
That's one of the reasons I would never ask that though, because like, again, they always feed into this sort of victim.
Yeah,
culture,
like you're oppressing.
bullied.
Like, oh please, fuck out of here.
Which
dumbass.
I don't know. Again, to me, it wasn't even worth asking because that's the exact reaction I would have known was going to happen. Is that they were going to cry about that?
Yeah, that's what they feed into.
Whatever the case. Anywho, that was mostly what happened this week, except that I got this. Oh man, look at that. Oh shit. That is so cool.
Funny because I noticed the thing in the background. I was like, look at him and his vibe.
Oh. I normally have it over there, but I wanted to close the door, so I moved it. Because I have one like in that corner of the room, and then on the opposite side, and then pretty much they just have to kind of like overlap. Because like there's different modes you can use. You can just use the helmet as it is, or you can do what I have set up, which is room scale, so you can like move around the room and stuff.
I think that's the thing that makes the Vive the coolest thing is that they give you more room to maneuver, so you're not like, you know, for the most part, it's standing in place.
Yeah, I mean, you can. I think you can do room scale stuff with the Oculus now too, but I like it has like nice little features. Like I think I mentioned it to you. Well, maybe we can end off the podcast before I go all nerd out and stuff.
He's about to go jump off of a building virtually.
Yo. That was a very emotional experience. It's not funny. All right, I screamed for real.
I shouldn't laugh because I probably would do the same fucking shit. So I remember seeing the demo from the Sony PlayStation 1. I forget what movie it was for that they did it where it was that one where the guy was like walking tight ropes between buildings or something like that. Forget the name of it. But they had a demo for that and we're trying to get people to try to walk across and people were like falling and screaming and stuff like that. Yeah, like no. Never.
I put up a post on Facebook where I was like, I know people laugh at those videos, but now that I've experienced it, it's not fucking funny.
Yeah, I know. It's like you see that you were haha, but I didn't laugh because I knew like I would probably do the same goddamn thing.
So since we're still on, and you guys probably don't know what we're talking about. When I got this Vive the other day, I played a game. I think it was called Super Hot or whatever. There's this part where he tells you like you're standing on top of a building or whatever on this ledge, and this voice says like, "Show us your commitment." And I looked down. I'm like, I actually felt myself getting kind of like wobbly when I looked down. You know that old phrase, "Never look down from a tall height" or whatever. Like I actually started to feel that nervousness. And then he said, "Show us your commitment," and it was like prompting you to jump. And I was like, "Fuck, no, I'm not doing that." So then he says, "Look over," and I do, and I guess that triggered the falling to start happening. So I was standing like right over there in the middle of the room, and I'm just like screaming as I like feel myself fall for like a good few seconds. And then I actually had to take off the helmet, and like I was kind of breathing a little heavy, and I was like laughing at myself, like, "Oh my god, I'm just like one of those assholes in those videos that scream in VR."
Yeah, nah, I'm good with that.
I thought I was a better man, but nope. Just
hey,
as bad.
I don't knock you for that. I would fucking nah, that's some bullshit. Some bull fucking shit. Don't ask me to do no shit like that, people. I'm telling y'all now, if I will not buy a VR helmet to entertain you people on Twitch with it. That will not be a part of the extra life commitment.
I wonder how they set up, because I don't know if I sent you one of those videos on, or if you've seen like gameplay of Beat Saber.
Yeah, you did send me the Beat Saber, so
I wonder how they set up doing those recordings, because that'd be interesting to do with some of these games. They must have some sort of like green screen kind of thing or whatever that they use.
Yeah, I'm curious too.
Because like if I was just to record it, you would just see me like waving my arms around and screaming in the middle of this room. Like it wouldn't look as good as their videos where it looks like they're actually in the virtual space.
Yeah.
That might be something.
No, I turned on SmackDown and I see an atrocity.
Not sure I want to know what that is.
Yeah, you don't, because you'd be pissed.
I'm gonna watch SmackDown later. I'm gonna be afraid.
Yeah, the way they ended it is horrible. Horrible.
But
she should be ashamed of herself.
But yeah, this thing, it's the future. I got my issues actually, but not with the. Huh?
Should do a review.
Maybe. I enjoyed though because I had gotten onto the VR kickback with like the first version of the Oculus, and looking at how much it's improved is very exciting. I think now they still need like more full game experiences, but like some of the games I've played are really fun though, and they get you tired as hell. Like, just last night I was playing this boxing game. You know, like in boxing games, they have like that sort of fatigue system.
Yeah.
I was like, man, you don't even need that system because I'm just like legitimately getting tired. Like I can feel my arms falling because I'm like breathing heavy and like sweating and shit. Because I did like 5 fights in there.
Interesting.
And I just realized that I could have paused the game. Come to think of it, I'm stupid.
Well,
I could have just pressed pause.
You're in the moment. You're in the whole experience, you know?
I think it's called Knockout League. Like it's kind of cartoony, but it's weird because like it's in VR and you feel like really immersed. So I found myself like standing there when my opponent came up to me like face to face. And I would just feel like this weird tense moment because they feel like they're right there and they just got up in my face and started talking shit.
That's funny.
It is a
Well, that's good. It's supposed to do that. That's why, you know, that's what virtual reality is supposed to do.
Yeah, it is. That's why I think there's a lot of potential there because I feel like it's like a level of experiences that you just don't have in games. And I feel like the reason I like those recordings I sent you is because I don't feel like most recordings really do it justice. Because most of them are either of just the game and you can't even really feel the immersion there, or they're just of the person and you don't really see the game. So from your perspective, they just look like this weird person doing stupid crap with a big helmet on. Like you're never really getting a good sense of it. But I don't know. It's different. Like even shooters feel kind of weird because I was doing this one like Space Pirate Trainer or whatever, and you could turn your guns into shields. And at one point, I found myself like on the ground with like the shields over my head, just like waiting for the barrage of bullets to stop.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I've never done this in a video game, like this fucking move.
Maybe one of these days I'll be brave enough to try.
Yeah. And it came up with interesting ideas, man. Like the super hot game I was mentioning, it has a weird way that it works where like things are in slow motion until you move and then things move fast. So like everything's in slow motion, but if you start moving, everybody else will move fast. So enemies will come at you. And if you want time to think, you have to like not move or like move really slow to avoid bullets and stuff like that. And you'll be shocked how much energy you can expend trying to move in slow motion for long periods of time. But right, I've been nerding out about this on the podcast long enough.
No, I don't blame you because it sounded interesting when you were telling me about the Beat Saber stuff and all of that. Like, Vive was always, like I said, it always seemed like the cooler option. Everything else seemed like it was like pretty like solid, but Vive, the whole, you know, spatial recognition thing, where they came out the box with that and all that.
Oh yeah, because I didn't mention it. Yeah, he's referring to the Vive has a chaperone system. So when you set up room scale, you can like make this perimeter around the room when you start it up, and from there, if you find yourself like wandering toward the edge of the perimeter, this blue mesh wall shows up in game to kind of warn you that you're getting too close. Like even with the controllers, like if I reach out toward the perimeter that I set up, it will show up so that I can see that I'm kind of wandering away. It's time for me to get back to like wherever I was. And it helps you like wander around a lot more because you don't have to worry as much about like bumping into shit, assuming that you cleared out your space and you set up your perimeter right.
Right.
I find myself a lot less worried. Like I haven't really bumped into anything. Except one time because after I set up the perimeter, I put a chair in here and I forgot that I'd done that. So I think I had like a sword and I went like blam and I like slammed it into the chair.
Yeah, and that's good because it means that you can kind of walk around and be a little bit more realistic. Where, like I said before, like stuff like the PlayStation and the thing, you can turn to a certain degree, but you don't want to turn too far out of the camera view and all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, back when I first did it, it was the seated version. Like they didn't have. I didn't really even heard much about this concept of room scaling. Like I'd seen some research around it, but it didn't come out of the box with that type of shit yet. So I'm surprised at the difference it really does. Like it feels like it makes a huge impact when you get to actually stand there and kind of move around the room a little, especially with the boxing game. Like it feels a lot different to be standing there. I keep pointing that way because I have my perimeter set up so that I'm facing that way when I play a game. I don't know why. I just kind of did it like that and I haven't changed it. But it is definitely a huge difference to actually be standing there with a boxing opponent and punching at them and like ducking and moving. Or when you're playing Beat Saber, like actually leaning around and moving around and stuff. Or better example, it's called like Steam VR Home. It's like this kind of just home area setup that Steam has. And I find myself just like actually walking around the virtual room because I can walk a bit in here. Yeah, it makes a surprisingly huge difference to be able to have that, to be able to walk around and bend down and get up and move around and do all that stuff.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's a lot more immersive.
I feel like it made falling scarier though. I'm just saying.
True.
Because I was standing when they did that fall thing, and I found myself like actually like freaking out. I didn't know what to do. In retrospect, I was like, I could have paused the game. I could have took the helmet off. There were so many options other than screaming like a little bitch.
That's not how your brain's gonna react, which is good. Like, it fools your brain.
You know that sinking feeling you get when you're starting to fall? Like I actually felt it was so weird.
I have acrophobia like shit. Yes.
Yeah, I guess you made a good point where it's like because I was feeling it, like all reason just left my body. And that's why I won't be playing a horror game because that shit scares me.
Yeah, I can't imagine playing something like Resident Evil or something. Nah, bruh.
Because even in just like Super Hot, where it's just like a really basic fighting thing, I've had times where like I turned around and one of them was like right up in my face, and it really freaked me out.
Yeah,
so I was like, what if it was like a murderous thing and I was like in one of those resident, like, no, I can't do it. Not me.
No, we're good.
Maybe if you guys, no, I'm not even gonna say it. Fuck that. I was gonna say maybe if they give enough money to your extra life thing, I'll do one of those. But then I'll actually die.
Yeah, nah. We're not making that an extra life incentive. Nope. Not doing a. Let's just get out of here before people start listening to this in earnest and be like, "Yo, you got to do it. You got to do it. Don't give them no ideas." All right, that does it for this episode of the Reason Reborn. Thank you to you guys for listening, watching. Appreciate it. Hopefully, you'll come back if you're a Kanye West fan. If not, well, kind of an idiot for still being a Kanye West fan at this point. So. Sorry. No, I'm kidding. You can enjoy his music all you want. Just please, for the love of God, don't listen to this man in any philosophical way. He's a moron. Anyway, check out the links in the description. We still got the Askfm thing. I've actually been sitting here trying to go through the 2 months of Askfm stuff that I haven't answered. I'm gonna get to the recent stuff eventually. I even rehashed some answers that I actually put on the His Point, Her View podcast just so I could clear them off my board. And you guys can say that I can't say that I didn't actually answer them and all of that.
On that note, I will definitely answer a few of them tonight because I'm falling behind.
Yeah, I just want to like make sure, even though I think some of the questions are ridiculous, I will answer.
I feel like I noticed a few good ones coming, but I just didn't have the chance to look at them.
Yeah, there have been some better ones.
And I am not ignoring them unless they're stupid. Then I was ignoring them. Sorry. They're not all equal. Sorry. Not all questions are created equal. Some of them don't make any sense to me, and I don't even know how to answer them. try as I might. All right. You can rack up. I don't have any. I guess my recommendation for the week is to look into VR. I'm not saying buy it because it's expensive as fuck.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, because over the years I've been like a supporter of mixed reality stuff, and I kept hearing people say like it's gimmicky, it's nonsense, it's blah blah blah. Referring to like the Virtual Boy stuff. I would say look into it a bit more. I don't know, man. Give it a shot. I think there's a lot going on. It's very exciting. That's it. Explore the tech.
Yeah. Nah, just not the falling shit. Sorry.
No.
All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed. We'll holler at you next time. Peace.